What's this life for? Quarters in session. And I said, oh, yeah. And I said, oh. Oh, whoop, there it is. Hey, we're live. We're back. This is really happening. I'm looking at you. How are you? It's your boy BC. It is Wednesday, January 29th. Hey, PBC Fight Week. Get fired up for Beterbiev-Bivol this Saturday and UFC Riyadh. But you've entered the feel-good chat of the century. It is Campbell's Rambles every Wednesday, 4 p.m. in the East, as Luke Thomas would say, and your boy BC. Let's go. Okay, put the X up. There we go. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Thank you, Remix. Yep. What is that? I guess that's your name. All right, let's go. BCX is back. So here's the deal. Once a week, they let me sit in front of this microphone and ramble for 2 to 3 hours, right? And take your questions. So sip a coffee for the working man, stone cold style. And by the way, is there a greater joy? Is there a greater joy in life as a 46-year-old washed male than the late afternoon coffee? I beg to differ on that one. Okay, so fired up to be here. One Love hat, full effect, Bob Marley style. Nothing says midlife crisis like buying the Bob Marley hat on vacation with the family. Let's go. Okay, let's get fired up. We're going to have a fun show today. I'll be talking about big things going around combat sports, from BKFC'S breakthrough weekend to more GFL madness and maybe some Beterbiev-Bivol in between, of course. I mean, look, right and wrong. At late afternoon, there is a skyrockets in flight if you can get yourself hooked up. But this is my afternoon delight. Thank you very much. What I'm trying to say here is we got some good stuff to talk about today. We'll take your questions, and as always here, the super chat's open, right? So if you want to save a few of them loonies that you were going to give Luke on Thursday, no, just kidding. Support all of our people, Long Island Luke's main card minute and all that. But if you want to drop a little in there, I appreciate that, as always. But this is about you. It's about me. It's kind of about us, right? A consensual opportunity to come hit up the BCX. I'm the proprietor. 2-drink minimum. Smoke them if you got them. Hey, let's have a good time. Good vibes only, right? Only. Maybe it's not going. Dixon Cider's like, yo, I'm sitting in the dark with no power for like 4 hours. Well, hey, let me entertain you if your phone has enough life to it. All right, or your iPad, what you rocking on your iPod. All right, that's what I'm talking about right there. We're gonna ramble, darling, all right, because I was born a rambling man. And I'm one day away from getting on that plane and hitting Sin City, Las Vegas. I really wasn't trying to make this all about me, but Luke caught me off guard on Monday's MK. Excuse me for that. Some people are upset I drink too many liquids on this show and burp a lot. I mean, I'm a man, you know what I mean? I could take off my socks right now and show you the reality of my toes. They tell my story, all right? But when Luke was kind enough to stop our little preview and shout me out, I guess I had to think about it. And he's right. This is the biggest moment of my career on Saturday, and I'm super excited. I'm giddy. I'm fired up. I'll be on the call. PBC on Prime Video, as you already know, the pay-per-view, a loaded pay-per-view card. I'm just gonna soak it all in. Just gonna savor the moment. All right. I've worked pay-per-view before. I did the Jim Gray role and Benavides Andrade at the end days of Showtime. I've had cups of coffee, as Luke Nocita would say, coffee talk. I've had a few cups of coffee broadcasting wise in a few locations, but that's pretty big on Saturday. I'm fired up. Let's go, PBC. Let's go, Mo Ronaldo, my man. Okay. Are you guys prepared for Mo and Big BC? I don't think you are, the BBC with that BDE, but I'm fired up. I'm ready. Life is good. Okay. It's been a hard hard year and a half in this profession. So celebrate the wins when you get the chance. By the way, always celebrate the wins. You remember what happened in 91 in the Western Conference Finals? I doubt you do, but Sam Perkins was a big free agent pickup for that version of the Lakers. Really Magic's last stand before the Hive got involved. And he took that team to the finals under first-year head coach Mike Dunleavy. But if you remember, when they knocked out Portland, big upset in the conference finals, and got ready for the Magic versus Michael matchup, Sam Perkins tried to celebrate in the locker room afterwards, pouring champagne on himself. And Worthy, Scott, the vets, they all turn around and they go, "Hey, Sam, we don't celebrate Western Conference championships on this team. All right. We just won 5 championships in the 80s. Okay. That's what we do. We win championships and then we go to that room in the forum that no one talks about, and Magic gets like 8 women at a time. That's what we do here. Okay. So, I say, let's celebrate all the wins. Okay. You know what I'm not good at? I didn't mean to turn you into my therapist. I'm not good at living in the moment. I got a lot of love for the past. I'm a big nostalgia head. I got a lot of worry for the future, a lot of goals, a lot of drive, and a lot of ambition. But my therapist, my wife, my work wife, they're trying to tell me, live in the moment. So I'm going to celebrate this win. I'm going to celebrate this chat. I'm going to celebrate this cup of coffee. Okay. I'm going to celebrate this midlife crisis hat, and I'm going to celebrate you out there. All right. Let's get fired the heck up. All right. Where left? Yeah, there you go. You're right there. Where's Sandine? Okay. Where's Carson? Let's go. Where's by the way, Alan W showing up on yesterday's Inside the Box. Nice cameo from him on there. So I appreciate all the love and support. Same from all of you. In the news, in the know from the BCX this week, slow week for the BCX. We're basically in default mode, just rolling out the balls. We had the Inside the Box yesterday as Rafe Boogs and I went ham on Benavides, Morel, Fulton, Figueroa too, and all that, and then some for this Saturday's card. Check that out. I'm currently in a no row at all. I'm okay. I'm not gonna lie to you. Maybe in the 4th row. Okay, maybe a little bit in there, but I hope you're enjoying your times. We are live. I mean, that should be it. You get off of work. You know what I mean? Maybe you get off right afterwards. I don't know how you live your life, all right? But then you get on the BCX. Do whatever you want, okay? Put whatever you want in your body. I'm not watching, all right? And it feels like I can look right through your soul and judge your thoughts, but I can't from this point, all right? There you go. All right. I'm fired up. World peace is the goal, as always. Remix. Thank you very much. That's what we're trying to bring here. Sandine is here, okay? Walking his dog and planning the Everest trek. I mean, seriously, you're planning the 29,028 feet there of the world's highest mountain. I don't believe you, Sandine. Okay, I don't believe you, brother. But we did learn on Tuesday's Inside the Box Live that Dave Sandine, acted and behaved. It seems a lot like Luke's Marine buddies back in the day when he did the great service for our country. So what I'm learning about these servicemen is, to blow off steam after providing service for our great country, they like to have services provided for them. You know what I mean? Okay, that's enough. Sorry about that, Sandy. You know where I'm going with this. All right. Where Octopus with no friends is coming in. Would like to go to Everest Base Camp someday. I mean, wouldn't we all, right? I mean, I wouldn't necessarily, but I get what you're talking about. I remember they had that reality show about a decade ago where the people we're trying to get up there. It's tough. I remember the pastor of my church tried to climb Kilimanjaro, but the altitude sickness, he just never adjusted and had to come home without climbing. It's tough. That's what happens. But enough talking about peaks and mountains, unless you're talking about the one that I'm about to climb in my career on Saturday, because that's what's up. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Get fired up. We did it. All right, Ma. We did. Meatloaf. Ma, Meatloaf. We did it. All right. That's what's up. MK News. We'll be back Friday. I'll be, of course, on the ground in Las Vegas, but Luke Thomas and I will be hitting you Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, morning combat. We will set the stage for the 2 big events this weekend, UFC Riyadh, the fight night with Adesanya, back in it against Imavov, and of course this PBC pay-per-view, picks, fun and games, all that, and then some. Tall, pale, and handsome at times. At times it is your boy, B friggin' Sizzle. All right. So check yourself before you wreck yourself. Check your head, as the Beastie Boys once put out on a fantastic early 90s record that had some alternative rock feels in it for a hip-hop tape. I got that in 8th grade birthday over the summer of 92. I got Check Your Head on cassette. I also received Brand Nubians All for One on cassette, that and as well as Tony's tape, because, you know, they had It Feels Good was a big hit back then. I doubt you guys remember that, but, you know, as Luke Thomas would say, it's not your fault that you were born in the early 90s and you missed this, but, whatever, really, I'm just talking to myself in circles. I guess this is the right format for that. But, MK News next week, a week from this Friday, we will be back in the studio hitting you hard with a live pregame preview. Okay. Thank you, Cuervo. Thank you. This will be the final one, by the way, in the studio. We do have plans in the future to shoot those the way we used to. And, you know, we're going to hit the ground running. So it's coming together, guys. The picture is coming together. All right. The dream, it's happening. It takes time sometimes. There's curveballs, there's pitfalls, there's detours. All right. I just went through a lot of them occupationally. Thank the Lord, though, I'm still standing. I'm back. I'm ready. I just re-upped with CBS for one more year. So thank you. Thank you. It's been a great run at this fantastic company. It's going to continue. So here we go. All right. Let's go. Let's go. What are you feeling out there? Zavada? Figueroa by stoppage? Slight favorite in this rematch. I'm sure we can get into that. Great stuff going on there. Idea for MK coming forward from Lazy Bed. Friday morning weigh-ins have a scrolling ticker at the bottom with the results. Yeah, great point. I'll give Luke Tomas a lot of credit. He has wanted us to, I mean, this was before the wheels fell off on our show. He wanted us to really reimagine the Friday show and really, you know, make it a weigh-in reaction show. And I'm certainly not against that. You know, what do we start earlier? Or there's ways we can do it. I don't know. A lot of things have changed here with MK. We're just happy to still be standing back, ready to go as always. Al Drum, thank you. Okay. Thank you. I'm stoked for it as well. Okay. There we go. All right. Long Island Luke's here. Okay. Always here. Yep. That's doable if we get cut off by the DK ticker. Yeah. Good points. We can make this work though. LIL. You know that. All right. So get yourself some coffee. Let's do it here. Okay. All right. One more from the Dino Don show. This guy newcomer in this here. Welcome. We got to initiate you, brother. Okay. Bend over. No, just so weird. So too early for this. BC Luke left you hanging like a donk with your business ethics reference on Monday's MK. Just a shout out from those of us in the 8th row who appreciated the niche Billy Madison joke. Thank you very much. That's all I got, guys. That's all I got. Early 90s jokes and references. That's all I got. Okay. All right. I could, you know, do I think Morel can pull this off? I think he can. I think he's the rightful betting underdog, but I think he can. I mean, I am fired up for what they call a veritable 50-50 fight on Saturday pay-per-view. Let's go. T-Mobile fired the heck up. So that's about all I got to share to kick things off in terms of life, liberty, and the pursuit of one man's dreams. But I feel good. I feel really good. Okay. I mean, how do you feel? How's everything? You know what I'm saying? I mean, are you experienced? Have you ever been experienced? Right? Well, I have. Okay. I have. Well, people just dropping bombs early, just being like, we're not going to wait until the super chat portion. We're going to come at you firing. And I appreciate that. We're going to get to all of that fantastically. Let's start off with my number one topic. All right. One more for the people. Jfish 5. BBC, how many pairs of you know, sometimes you can get so deep in the Reddit, you just automatically change the way you speak and you forget how to actually pronounce words. You know what I mean? It's really one of the greatest things that's ever happened. I'm not a huge kicks guy. I finally threw away a pair of sneakers that my wife had been on me for basically 2 decades to get rid of. I don't know if that math adds up, but my 05 Tracy McGrady T-Mac Adidas Orlando Magic bright blue ridiculous basketball shoes I finally tossed, as I did my blue and light powder blue Roy Jones Jr. Air Jordan Velcro leather chill out casual shoes. All right. They never quite worked. They were my favorite pair of sneakers I ever had, but they were never comfortable. They never really looked all that great. And the bottoms ripped off way too early than they should have. But it's the only pair of Jordans I ever owned. So there you go. Now I just got a bunch of old man slip-on sneakers because that's how I get down. Thank you very friggin' much. All right. This time we're going to get into it. We're going to hit you guys up at the top of the hour. But here's where we jam. Here's where we bang. Topic number 1. Hey, shout out to BKFC. They brought it over the weekend. They absolutely brought it to Philadelphia. We broke it down at MK, 17,000 strong, a fun-ass card, fireworks galore, and then a viral moment, whether it's realistic or not, Conor McGregor facing off with Jeremy Stephens, in theory, to finally figure out who's the hardest hitter at the 145. We gave those guys a lot of praise on Monday, and I think they deserved it. I didn't expect BKFC to jump all in, put out a video of what we said. He's got Conor McGregor quote tweeting it. So it was a wild week. You know what I mean? Conor didn't necessarily accuse us of not being Irish. I am 1/8 Irish, Conor. Okay, leave Paul Hughes a friggin' alone right now. But I will ultimately say, though, that I think we were right. Even though they're obviously not an MMA promotion. They're an MMA promotion that does boxing. Let's be fair. They really are number 2 right now. And, you know, the Feldmans have been around for a while. Dave and his brother, they did celebrity boxing like 10, 15 years ago when it was gross celebrity boxing. Like, can we convince any of these Jersey Shore people to make the turn and do it? You know, Snooki's free. I didn't think they'd get here. And, you know, hearing Dave Feldman's story, he had that big reveal on the Ariel show leading into this card where he did, and I'd never heard it before, where he told, I guess he originally told Playboy magazine, but you know, we don't tend to read those for the articles, right? And ultimately what he's been through in his personal life with his mother and a lot of craziness that he's had to endure, it is wild and insane. I understand why it's not a story that he tells usually so willingly, but it does speak to his relentlessness of what he's been through in life. This is Dave Feldman, BKFC president, CEO, founder, whatever you want to say. I'm happy to see them get this moment. I really am, because that guy does work hard. And, you know, we always preempt it by saying, well, this really isn't my cup of tea. And it really isn't in terms of like what combat disciplines or setups really get me fired up. But as I always say, they do everything else right, that they elevate the actual what it is, a bare knuckle fight. And I dare say, you know what they've become? I think everything that Dana White hoped and believed that Power Slap would become. But obviously there's major differences. You know, Power Slap it's not just there's no defense. It's not a competitive sport. It's a gross spectacle. And it just so happens if you can take slaps better than the other guy, you might not get concussed. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous, right? At the very least, this is a competition, and it's gnarly and it's violent. And it is this weird in-between sport where it does level the playing field between boxers and mixed martial artists, between old guys and young guys, experienced guys and guys with gas station tattoos, right? Like it really does bridge that gap. But to do what they did and to see the effect that Conor McGregor has, even though Conor McGregor is going through his worst stretch, it's deserved for the most part, his worst stretch of PR and brand value, really since we've known him, it's still such an insane boon to be able to have these big functions and weigh-ins, press conferences, and have Conor. And even though we come out and we have you seen the shit out of these Conor videos of like, oh my God, look at this guy, 24/7, 365, he's still drunk, right? Like we're doing that bit. But yet at the same time, it's working. It's galvanizing the public. And it really is. These aren't, the thing about combat sports in general is for the most part, the majority of people that have come to these events over the years and the many different variations and times, it's for the violence and the absurdity of it. But what happens over time through the evolution of the sport is you constantly lose that casual fan base that you lust for. The more a sport gets mature, the more the competitors in the sport learn the craft and become technicians of it. And then it kind of becomes, at times, for the most part, you're appealing to hardcores who love it. You're only going to appeal to those same casuals twice a year, or when you get these big ones, or when you get something like Tyson versus Paul, where you're bringing in everybody out of nowhere again. But what BKFC ultimately, the secret to that recipe, along with the pro wrestling style of how they promote it and present it, to me, is the fact that it's a real fight at the end of the day. And not all combat sports events are real fights at the end of the day. You can get very technical pay-per-view boxing matches with defensive stalwarts. It happens in MMA all the time. You can come in, Sean Strickland could talk you into the room telling you he's going to die in that cage. And then, even though I don't personally think Sean Strickland's a boring fighter, I respect his boxing, how close he stands to you. But in general, if you're not a hardcore and you watch that, you can get bored at the high level of technical versus technical, or the ground game that may not appeal to you. The thing that BKFC has in their back pocket, because what we always say about BKFC is, okay, you're overachieving right now, Feldman. You're getting us interested. You're making it fun. But hey, man, there's a ceiling to how far this can go. And I think in general, that's true. It's much gnarlier than boxing or MMA on its own. It's presented in almost purposely in such a way that it's the ultimate gas station hot dog on a plate, gourmet style, presented to you. I mean, it's shameless. It's trashy. It's raw. But at the end of the day, it's a fight to win these matches. Remember MVP versus Mike Perry, and it goes to that bonus round. Looks like life or death at the end of that fight. Look at Eddie Alvarez, had his face broken apart, his jaw shattered. It is at the end of the day a real fight. And when it's a real fight, it certainly appeases those who are only in it for the violence. Yes. But I think it reminds us a lot, if you're a UFC fan, either from the beginning, like I guess lucked into being because I had the black legal pay-per-view box right when it launched, and the buzz was building, and I watched it with my dad and all that, even though I kind of left the sport as the sport was taken off TV and hit that dark period where really only the hardest of hardcores are still following it. Somewhere along the way, and it maybe it was around the 2010, 12, 13 area, like the sport evolved, the sport leveled up, the skills took a level up. The fights weren't, it's when we did on MK, we used to do resume review, as you recall. I remember particularly, I think we did a Nate or Nick. No, we did a Nick Diaz episode. We must have done it ahead of that Robbie Lawler rematch. Am I wrong on this? No, I think that's right. And the thing that I ultimately loved in going through this process. Oh, I got to let Reggie out. Hold on. This is the pitfalls and the perils of having a cat. This is it. All right. Hold on, Reggie. Go for it, dude. What I was reminded about going back on UFC Fight Pass and watching these early and awesome 2004, 5, 6 Nick Diaz fights was the fights back then. And you forget this sometimes, man, they were fucking fights. Like, yeah, there's strategy involved. Yeah, there's technique involved. But at the end of the day, to get the win, you had to be more gnarly, in better shape, crazier, all that stuff. And I know you can say, well, that's still kind of true today. And it's not like we don't have regular great fights and are regularly entertained all the time. I feel like lately I'm the only one pointing out bad matchmaking on the fight nights, and everybody's like, yeah, I don't really care. It's still UFC and it's still awesome and I still love it. And I get that. But BKFC has captured this feeling that I don't think we've felt in a while. So I think they're really working that. Now you need the investments, and they're getting that. You need, even though I did listen to that John S. Nash podcast about it was largely about DAZN, but I think in there he talked about BKFC's breakout, really put a warning out there because Triller had bought BKFC and because Triller is struggling so bad that it, that things may not be as well in BKFC land as they seem, but they seem pretty good right now. So if Feldman and company can continue to have the money to sign the right people when they're available. And by the way, I'll talk about GFL in a second. And there's a lot of negative to say, but the one thing that what's the guy's name of GFL? Darren Owen. The one thing he told Ariel just, I think yesterday again, was that the fighters in GFL will be allowed to do whatever they want outside of that. So there's still an opening there for BKFC to get the right type of aging star. Obviously, once McGregor comes clear, I mean, really, if you think about it, because McGregor seems overly motivated. Here's the order, it seems, of disciplines that McGregor wants to do right now. Well, number one, he wants to party, and he is. So that's number one. Number two seems to be BKFC. He's in love with the product. He wants to test himself in that, and it would be incredibly entertaining to see that. Number three seems to be boxing, and then UFC after that. He kind of effed BKFC in an odd way by not going forward with that Michael Chandler fight at International Fight Week last summer. He'd have one left, and maybe there would still be shenanigans of the UFC trying to stiff arm Conor and prevent that final fight from happening under the idea of like, well, we're dangling Conor to Netflix or whoever's going to take the majority of this new TV deal that's coming up for the UFC. You've heard the rumors, $1 billion. I mean, it's going to be massive. It's going to be ridiculous. By the way, no Mikey right now. Always has my back. Just not at the moment. I may F up a couple of these comments or miss a few. I'm trying my best here. All right, bear with me. I'm also rambling right now, okay? All right, let's get on it. I heard Dave Feldman in the most recent Ariel interview on the Uncrowned Ariel Hawani show basically saying, look, it was a great viral moment with Conor and Stevens, but yes, that's not realistic right now. Why would UFC do that? I think he said the right things, but he also said, look, it's up to us to still try and reach out. And it is up to him to do that. They'll do that. They'll get rejected, but I think you should still do that. But in a weird way, could you imagine if Conor was free right now? Right now, free to go fight in BKFC. Let's go, BC. Take that hat off, baby. Okay. Well, it starts with the hat, and then before you know it, I'm dangling my underoos right here. But, I didn't get I was trying to get the haircut today and ran out of time. I got to get it tomorrow morning. So, yeah, that's what's under the hood here. It's not episode 6, Return to the Chuck Mindenhall style, okay? I still got to, shout out to people. It can't be easy. I mean, we heckle people with bad toupees in this society. We heckle them behind their back. They're trying. It's not easy, right? All right. Sometimes you just got to put your dicks inside her. Okay. That was interesting timing. All right. I'm just saying, I'm willing to play with where I think the ceiling is on how far BKFC can go after what they did over this weekend. Yes, it was perfect storm, perfect planning to have Eddie Alvarez, who still has such a following in that arena. But that the sport is so Philly, and you heard Ben Rothwell talking about it. There was a different energy in that building. Could you imagine when Conor can fight? You know what I mean? When he can fight for them, what that would do to galvanize them. I do think there is reason to be super excited in that camp. Reason to believe that they're not quite there yet where they plan on going. And I think it's realistic not to be somebody that's competing with the UFC, right? They've carved out in a way their own niche as a hybrid sport, but getting the right names at the right times. And here, because the thing that I always thought would hold BKFC back, and I learned this the hard way talking to fighters, I just assumed that classy technical fighters would never want anything to do with this gnarly thing. I figured people would have watched Paulie going in there against the GOAT Artem and ended up, getting a bad decision loss and having these scars all over his face. There's some gnarly bad endings in BKFC, but I constantly underestimate the true heart of these fighters who not only are not afraid of this at all, they love it. You hear Dan Hooker, which you would expect Dan Hooker, but Dan Hooker basically being like, I can't wait till I'm able to go there. I remember talking to Keith Thurman, classy boxer, saying, oh, dude, I would do that in a heartbeat. And I thought he was saying it more from a standpoint of well, I'm a real boxer. I'd clown these guys. And I pushed him on. He's like, no, I'd love to just take that challenge. Fighters are willing to do this. It's not quite power slap, right? There's a certain level of respectability still around it. Yeah, it's trashy and it resembles a back barroom brawl in a lot of ways, or a schoolyard fight. Certainly there's skill, but I think the people that have adapted skill, the people that end up being champions and champions for a while, there's a skill adaptation going on there for sure. But the bigger name guys that are coming to BKFC from other sports are still such novices in it that they haven't figured out strategic ways to make the fights less, to inevitably to win that makes the fights more boring. They're still just going into the fire. So imagine if Conor had taken that Chandler fight, win or lose. Imagine if he had then come back and ended that run. And again, maybe it never would have happened. Maybe UFC would have tried everything in their power to keep him on the roster at the very least to kick off that new TV deal. But if I'm Conor, this is the biggest hurdle. You got to put down the things that are holding you back. If you can put that down, get in shape and get through these two fights as quick as possible, it is interesting to wonder, because the idea of making fun fantasy matchups with someone like Mike Perry is great and fun, and he has been the face of BKFC of late. But if you bring in Conor, it's just a different story. And I don't think BKFC losses, outside of the gnarly potential to get your face scarred up and to get, beat up pretty bad, people ever hold these as like losses against you. Like, who cares that Eddie Alvarez technically, you know, just barely beat Mendez and lost to Mike Perry and just got knocked out against Jeremy Stevens. It's about the spectacle, the money, the gnarliness of it, the challenge of it. I look, I just never thought they'd be here. So they're here now. What else can they do? I'm starting to be one of those people that believes that they can do a lot more, actually, because Dave Feldman has surprised me in a good way. And they're finding an ability to do what we talked about on Monday that no one else outside of the UFC is doing: put asses in the seats in the States and make it count and make it matter. Yeah, I mean, I hear you, Jay. I need Connor high out of his mind when he fights. I mean, if he's fighting BKFC, that's the thing. There's got to be a certain level of training he has to do, of course, for stamina. But there is, as gnarly as BKFC is in that ring, I feel like to some degree, unless you're signing up for some 5-round title fight, that, you know, you can get the minimum in for training and then you just go in there and be gnarly. And if you're, you know, if you're going nuts on the outside, I mean, do they have drug tests? Should they have drug testing in the BKFC? I would hope not. All right. I would hope not. But I just wanted to shout them out and basically say they are the living embodiment of what Dana thought Power Slap could be, that none of us believed ever it could be. And now it's just toiling out there in Rumble land. And who knows, you know, I mean, it's still around. You still see emails in your inbox if you're a combat sports journalist or maybe even fan, but they're doing fun stuff, and they can technically pull from boxing or MMA. I wonder if they can keep going. We'll see. All right, topic number 2. Let me talk GFL now. We clowned them. I mean, like, I laughed hard when Luke's like, GFL Draft, I'm going to call it the AIDS. All right. This is known as AIDS from now on. I mean, the boys said it's an aggressive joke, but it does fit perfectly in the expectations of the Luke Thomas canon, so to speak. I don't want to hate on them because although Triller, and particularly Triller with that abomination of that Holyfield Belfort fight, and then you can definitely escalate that to the Paul Tyson fight. That jumped the shark on old guy fights. It made us go, yeah, do we really want this? No. But there's always been that sweet spot at the end of careers, like, you know, that age 36 to 48, where you're washed, but you still got it. And can you make fun fights in that window? I've always wanted I used to say, let's bring back the Contender reality series in boxing, only we'll call it the Washed Welter's House. And we'll have all the late 30s former welterweight champions, you know, live in a reality show and fight it off. There is like, is it a short-term bubble like crossover YouTube boxing? No, I even think there's staying power to the idea. If you can properly create a true senior fighter league, and you can manipulate the rules that I keep talking about in some ways that makes it somehow less dangerous or arduous, or maybe make it to where the losses don't really matter. Like, there's one thing last summer, because I'm aggressive and I'm hungry and I get out there and I work. Okay. I did a lot of shows for Team Combat League and I had a real fun time doing it. And that's a boxing league that, you know, had a stretch on DAZN last year and is doing their own thing. And it's interesting. It really is. But the hook for Team Combat League is there's teams in cities, a thing that I usually think is death, right, in terms of a format, but they're only fighting at the most on a given matchup. You're fighting 2 rounds. Most of the time you're fighting 1 round. Some fighters can fight twice in a night. You're only fighting 1 round, but it turns out it's a true team challenge. And I was shocked covering it all the way through the championship, how much the fighters and the coaches like really cared about winning. And it turned out to be this kind of cool thing. And I was like, damn. And the coolest part about it to me was they had a really good mix of young boxers who either weren't pro yet or had just turned pro and were like 2-0, 3-0, and like veteran names who were formerly in title fights, but they're in their late 30s and they're still lingering. And the cool thing about Team Combat League, if you're a boxer, is, I mean, I'm sure they're not getting paid a ton, but you're getting paid something. You're staying in shape and getting out there, and the losses don't count against you on your actual record. It's like a separate, just like BKFC is a separate record for these boxers or MMA people. So I was shocked that it made it so like the losses didn't really matter. It kept people busy. I remember Ginny Fuse, who went on to win a world title. She fights for Top Rank in the past year. She was fighting on there and she was undefeated all the way into the championship. It was just keeping her sharp and in shape and ready leading into getting her first title fight. If GFL or any league doing a senior thing, I know we want to call it the geriatric fight league, and it's fun to say that. But if you did it in a way that was all about, yes, paying the fighters more what they deserve. I don't know if any of this GFL stuff is actually going to work. The 50-50 revenue split, the retirement fund, all these things. They all sound great compared to what the UFC is not giving people. I get that. But if you can set up the rule set in a way that doesn't, the age of these fighters and the washedness of them does not work against them completely, and you make the fights fun, heck, you can even float titles, you know, you make it to where it's like, I don't know if you go smaller ring, shorter rounds, some rule set manipulation, but it becomes more of just a fun, separate meat grinder thing. Put them in there. Let's have fun. Let's all enjoy it. They can have a moment of glory, make more money, be a star again, all that. If GFL can focus on just that, okay? All right. I mean, how creepy am I being here, Luke Lopez? All right. I mean, I live a life of creepiness. Okay. All right. You know, it's like BC, stop breathing. Okay. If they, in theory, could do that, it might work. Why did Bellator have that huge success on the, what was it, Spike or the Paramount Network? The stretch that they had after Coker took over for Bjorn, when they're pushing Kimbo Slice heavy, when they're rolling out Shamrock Gracie 3, and they're doing, you know, different time in TV watching, pre-streaming, but they're doing 5-6 million live viewers. It was, you know, that was probably the best anyone's ever done at doing this, which is always a gamble and dangerous because the fights can be gross. Somebody can get injured. I mean, even Shamrock Gracie 3 ended up being weird. And, you know, Shamrock took a low blow and got called out for a TKO loss, you know, like, but if somebody can do it the right way, there's something there. So GFL has names that we kind of care about, but what the frick, separate from the draft debacle, what the frick are we doing with this team thing? Nobody cares. Like, nobody does. Nobody's going in there saying like, man, that LA roster's great. I really hope they win one for the Angels, for the Los Angeles, right? No one gives a flying F. So then to hear Darren Owen, GFL guy, after the draft happens and gets rightfully ridiculed, to basically go, yeah, it was a shame that we accidentally floated the results early, but hey, man, it turned out we were number one trending on Twitter. It's like, yeah, you were number one because people were making fun of it constantly. And if you're going to look at that as a win, regardless, all right, I get it and I understand it. But to then hear him say, and I thought Ariel asked the right questions when he basically said, okay, so what is your response to people that say because of that, the draft was kind of fixed? And then Owen to basically come out and be like, well, yeah, it was. I had the final say. The coaches told me who they kind of would want, but it was my decision in the end to put so basically you're admitting and showing us straight up, and maybe he kind of had to based on that, but to just straight up admit it as matter of fact, like, yeah, there was no draft. I just completely manipulated the rosters and did what I wanted to. And then to say, well, here's the deal. And here's what he told Ariel. They want to roll out Sundays and Mondays. They want to do an afternoon Sunday matchup, one city against each other, have an evening Sunday night matchup, and then do it again Monday night. He then says, but I want the fans to get, you know, what they want in terms of the matchups. So he said, I'll allow teams to trade, like do short-term trades. He's like, well, if we want to get Tony Ferguson versus Dylan Dennis, for example, don't grunt. It's a ridiculous, stupid matchup, but you'd tune in. Okay. You would. He's like, we would just, you know, I can manipulate it to where you just trade and then trade back. So, dude, Darren Owen, dude, this whole thing's a farce. Drop the team format. You know, he keeps talking about one day we'll have billionaire owners, but he says during this interview multiple times, but right now we own all the teams. There is no team format. Nobody cares about it. You manipulated the whole thing to set up the teams. Like, stop the madness. Here's what you need to do. Set your events properly, load them up with names we know, and take advantage of what you have. Some forms of unfinished business that the fans would want. One of those being a fight like Weidman Rockhold 2, Faber Barao 3, a worse example compared to the first one, but you get the angle of where I'm going. Tony Ferguson, Dylan Dennis. I mean, there's a lot of fun ridiculous fights we can make. Dude, stop wasting time with the team format. It's not going to work. Nobody cares about it. Nobody. And he even said the fighters don't have to like live in that city or train in that city. You're just representing that city. It's worthless. Nobody cares about it. But there's a proven track record that if you do it right, we do care about seeing our aging heroes continue to get paid if they got a little bit left in the tank and make a fun match, have some unfinished business. Now, look, the worst example of this, I gave you a few of them earlier. How about another one? Golden Boy MMA, Tito versus Chuck 3. I mean, that came way too late, but like 7 years earlier. There's a market. It's a grim market, but there's a market to want to see that. So it's bizarre to me. Perfect Speller, the people of Dubai yearn for their champion title. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and basically he admitted in terms of why were the picks in the first round the way they were. He's like, yeah, we just figured, the more popular fighters should go in the first round and go towards selling tickets for their city. Drop the cities, drop the team shit. Like PFL's finally waking up to some degree to understanding what's going on. If you have any fighting chance of being this geriatric fun senior league, drop all of that, take your best resources, and make the most fun cards you possibly can. I'll give Masvidal one credit. Masvidal's got like 3 promotions in one going, right? He's got bare knuckle MMA, he does boxing, he does whatever, some other form. But remember when he did that boxing card in, what was it, with unfortunate main event with Anthony Pettis against way past his prime Roy Jones, but some of those fights in between, like the Jeremy Stevens Jose Aldo rematch, but in a boxing ring. Like these were interesting. I remember watching that going like, there's kind of something here. Well, if you don't like boxing, you're an MMA guy. How about MMA? It's like, just do with what you know will work. Stop effing around. Stop dreaming too big. Stop being like PFL and having 15 silos going at once. Have one and put your best foot forward. Okay. That's all the advice I got for these people. All right. I got haters too. Brian Canning's one of them. This is a child playing with wrestling action figures, making matchups that would be weird. This case, though, it's a real promo. Yeah, okay, so you're taking shots at them. I mean, but that's the only way we're going to care. We're not going to care if you roll out some prospects. Like, obviously, you want to use the big names to get the fans in the door and then slowly roll your... It's like when we would turn into Bellator for Kimbo Slice, but, oh my God, did you see Michael Chandler on the undercard? Like, it's the same idea. I get that. But it can be done. It can be done, okay? We don't need to sexualize everything. We are live, but women's bikini MMA could work too. It really could, but let's get out of that. Thank you. Yeah. Game Bred Boxing. Thank you. No seat. He's got a few of those going on. All right. My final one is this weekend. I already did an hour and a half podcast yesterday on it. We're going to hit it hard on Friday. So I'm not going to break down at length here. Again, all the same points of why Benavidez Morel is a 50-50 pay-per-view fight and a fantastic style contrast and so much at stake. And oh, by the way, they really don't like each other. And that's going to fuel hunger and mayhem. And your boy BC will be in the middle interviewing them afterwards. Great, good times, great old. These dreams are coming true left and right. I did want to shout out, though. I mean, I'm getting a paycheck from them this week, but I don't owe them this. Like, we don't really know what's going to happen with PBC still. But they're fighting. If they're going out, they're fighting right now. And I got to big up Al Heyman for that. Last year was not a great year for them. It was a shock and surprise to a lot of us in this business when Showtime Sports suddenly shuttered. They didn't roll out the events that was originally promised, but their cards were strong. I've been at every single PBC card in the Amazon era, either calling it or being out there covering it for Morning Combat and CBS Sports. And they've been really good cards. I know the rumors of their demise and, are you going to be with Saudi or against them? There's still a lot of uncertain answers. But this is a very good card on Saturday night. And they got another one coming up with Tank in a month. And maybe they'll get Canelo back out in May. I gotta big up them in that sense that they're still fighting. And they've been fighters. And they've been, and Al Heyman's been counted out a million times and he finds another way. And even if it looks dire right now, I gotta shout them out. And no one is necessarily talking about this co-main event. I mean, the main event sells itself. You didn't need all the hatred, but that'll just stir it up a little bit more and it'll be great. People are going to be fired up. Boxing, MMA, everyone's going to be watching Saturday night. That co-main event is so far under the radar that it's ridiculous. Stephen Fulton Jr. against Brandon Figueroa, fight of the year in 2021. That was at 122. They're at 126 now. Things have changed the last few years. Fulton going through the roof, 3 straight wins in a new division, 2 by knockout. Looks to be a bigger puncher at 126. Looks to be a kind of a different fighter in some ways than he was at 122, where he was just spamming you, squaring up and just spamming you. But obviously, Stephen Fulton's got the real questions coming in based upon the pitfalls he's had. And I've seen this narrative on Twitter, and I don't disagree with it. A lot of people saying like, hey, boxing Twitter, hey, boxing fan / media / whatever in general, you guys have been really hard on Stephen Fulton. And we have. Here's a guy who we gave pound for pound votes. He beat Figueroa. He beat Danny Roman. He became the unified champion in this division. He had a 3 and 4 fight stretch in a row where he was, in the top 3 for fighter of the year, and really showing you who he can be. And then Inoue arrives in the division, dares to be great. Fulton asks out of PBC so he can go to ESPN Plus, fights in Japan, takes the fight, unbeaten versus unbeaten. This is awesome. Both guys in the top 10 pound for pound. And then Fulton loses a one-sided fight and gets stopped. And it was the worst performance of his career. I mean, he looked shell-shocked from the beginning. And then we kind of just forgot about him. And he took a long layoff. And then he comes back against Carlos Castro in that 126 debut. And it's, right before the PBC pay-per-view. It's like the final prelim fight. And he really has to scratch and crawl and to pull out a close split decision win. And the world is like, this 31-year-old's done. That's not fair. Does he have questions coming in? Yes. Big time questions coming in. A lot of people, by the way, a lot of people willing to bet their hair, Jay. Loser shaves their head. I'd be down for that bet in every big fight. That should be, remember WrestleMania 3 when Adrian Adonis, and Piper had his retirement match and he put him to sleep with the sleeper hold. Then Beefcake comes in to help and he becomes the barber. Only the electric razor didn't work. So he had to take those giant shears and try to trim it. Yeah, I think that should be the thing every time. All right. A lot of people back in Figueroa right here. Main card minute, they know what's up. But I really want to see how Stephen Fulton Jr. responds because he's talked about it in the interviews this week. I think he has been getting a little bit of a raw deal from one loss against arguably the world's best fighter and then move up in weight. And yeah, he had a fight to get that victory. Yeah, if he's not the same fighter anymore, he's fighting the Figueroa at the wrong time. There's no doubt about that. But he also can become a 2-time world champion by taking Figueroa's WBC title at 126. And you've got Figueroa, by the way. Not a lot of people talking about this. We know Inoue might eventually go for a 5th weight class at 126. Figueroa is openly saying, after this, I want Inoue. I want that smoke. I saw what happened to Fulton, different division, different situation and setting, but there's a lot at stake here. So this fight is going to be fantastic. Pitbull Cruz coming back. Like, guys, circle. I know Pitbull Cruz is Esau Cruz, massive favorite against Angel Fierro, and he should be. But, I saw Fierro's fighter meetings this week, and he's like, yeah, it's going to be bloody and ridiculous, and it's going to be an all-time Mexican war. And, and they asked Pitbull, and he's like, yeah, Barrera Morales is my favorite rivalry, and I'm trying to turn this weekend's fight into one of those. This, for as long as it lasts, this is going to be this is going to be a fun brawl. Cruz should win. Fierro's got balls. You got to watch out for that guy. He surprised Alberto Machado with BC on the call in Puerto Rico that time on 6 days' notice. Big underdog against a former champion, knocked him out. Dude's got some pop and he has huevos. So check that out. And, it's going to be interesting. We also counted out Banana, Jason Rosario, the former 154 unified champ, who's in the opener on Saturday against Jesus Ramos Jr., who's really needing to bounce back. I know he already picked up a win in terms of bouncing back technically, but needs a big win to put that Erickson Lubin close decision behind him and remind us who he is at 54. And by the way, he's only 23 still, so there's still time. But to hear Rosario talk about, and, he did get knocked out by, in some big step up moments, not just losing the title to Charlo by body shot jab knockout, but then getting knocked out by Lubin, a couple fights later, getting knocked out by Brian Mendoza. To hear Banana Rosario in the fighter meetings basically say, I was out of control after I won the championship from J-Rock. I was living it up. I wasn't even training. I was whatever. And he actually retired, if you remember, after that loss to Brian Mendoza. And in his mind, he was running from God, hiding from God. But he said he's restored that spiritual connection. He feels reborn, and he credits it all to my favorite trainer in boxing, Bob Santos, with turning his motivation and drive around. This is going to be interesting. He's a monstrous betting underdog, but he's still only 28. And he basically is saying, I wasn't training hard for all those fights. I was, I got a little bit of money and I was living it up. He's got the right trainer in Santos who can really kind of reform you and get you back in there. I like Jesus Ramos Jr. a lot, but we saw to some degree some limitations there against Lubin. I wonder if this can turn into an interesting fight. So check that out on Saturday. Check me out, PBC on Prime pay-per-view, 8 p.m. Eastern time, T-Mobile Arena. We got Morrow, we got Abner, we got BC, we got Jordan Plant, we got Brian Custer, Joe Goosen. What a team. What a time. Let's go. All right. Yeah. Chinchilla. Will the Carmel Motown? As of right now, no. There is a 2-fight preliminary card that'll air live on Prime Video before. I think it's I don't know what time that starts. If the pay-per-view starts at 8 p.m. Eastern, maybe this starts at 6. I don't know. Unfortunately, as of now, I think they're going to run a replay of Moten. I don't believe, but that could change as we head into there. And also, Jose Benavides Jr., the brother of David Benavides, is on this card in sort of a comeback fight as well, untelevised at this moment. Some people have said, hey, BC, can you sit really close and just stream it live on your phone? No, I'll be in the back, doing my deep bend stretches and getting makeup done. But I'll be checking it out for sure. Carmel is fun to watch. And there we go. Devin Tuck. Okay, so yeah, we're going to open up the floodgates. It's time. Bring it. Let's go. It's your time. Say what needs to be said. Say what you need to say, John Mayer. Okay, let's go. Devin Tuck, who's a regular in these parts. When he walks in, people know his name, right? Go, what the Tuck? You know what I'm saying? That's my guy. Tuck that in. How's your hang down, Devin? Right? We just got weird again, right? Is this Dagestan Georgia rivalry about to heat up? I hope so. I really do hope so, because, it was fun. It was fun for a minute, that Irish versus Dagestan MMA, right? Because in theory, the Usman versus Paul Hughes fight was by extension Khabib versus Conor too. Only Conor didn't end up going to the fight because he had BKFC Knucklemania in Philly, and Conor ultimately was a big reason for that card's success and the overall vibes of that week. And I know since then, because the audio has leaked of in the cage in PFL after the Usman Hughes fight, where Hughes went up to Usman and Khabib. And remember, they had that very cordial moment there of respect, and they brought up Gaza and and Palestine and all that, and there was a lot of fun Bushido going around. And as much as I'm here for the saucy build and the trash talk and the pro wrestling shit that you guys sometimes hate when I get fired up for, you better believe I'm here for that GSP style Bushido. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. I think that it was interesting to see Hughes tell Khabib and them, I'm not like that other guy, meaning Conor. And I think he was just basically saying, I'm not a dick. I'm not, because the thing about Conor versus Khabib, they went too far in so many lines that when they both say it, it is true. It's on for life with them. I don't see an end of times Ali Frazier, let's finally bury the hatchet. It would be great if it does happen one time. I don't see it happening. I know that has spiraled more into Conor making it about Hughes because he's a Northern Irelander, not being Irish, and that has set off a firestorm. And I feel like everybody on MMA Twitter is coming at Conor, every Irish-born person, with the exception of Sinead Kavanagh, who got his back. But, I used to make Southern Ireland jokes when we did that London live show, but I was just fooling around. You know that. So let's put that aside, because that's not a real rivalry per se. And it's probably better for Paul Hughes that Conor wasn't there and that he's not dragged into that. You're talking about this real rivalry. Yeah, it's going to heat up, because it just so happens that 2 of the 4 best fighters in the world in my CBS Sports top 10 pound for pound rankings, for whatever that means to you guys, probably nothing. Everybody's got a pound for pound list and an asshole, and they both smell. Okay. Ultimately, at the end of the day, right? But 2 of the 4 best fighters in the world are from Georgia. No, I'm not talking about Roman Dolidze or Davi or Cheyenne. You know who I'm talking about, Marab and Elia. And they just did things. Well, they didn't do them yet. Marab did things to the Nurmagomedov family, holding off Umar. And Topuria is threatening to do that, obviously, with his want to move up and face Islam, even though Islam is probably more likely going to move up before that would happen and is even talking about fighting DDP, and that's becoming its own thing. I really hope this does become something, because these are two, I want to say countries, but, in Dagestan, it's an area of a country that have built their own identity in the MMA space, that are producing one after another elite fighters. And for the first time, and even though Paul Hughes isn't Georgian, he kind of joins this list. And even though I think he rightfully lost that fight, he fought so well against Usman that maybe it's just the younger Nurmagomedovs, Umar and Usman, who seem like long-term they have the shot to be even better than Khabib and Islam, but they're not there yet. They're younger. They're not as seasoned, maybe not as dominant in particular skills, more well-rounded in general. But it feels like these Georgian fighters do sort of have the kryptonite. And it really comes down to having the kryptonite to beat the Abdul Manap spin-off way, style. It's hard. I mean, it's elite stamina, it's toughness, it's knockout takedown defense. It's a lot of things. But given the possibility of not only, by the way, Marab and Umar one day doing it a second time, but the idea of Islam facing Elia, which I said is the best fight you can make in MMA in 2025, and I meant that, better than John versus Tom. Georgia's having a moment. Georgia is having a moment right now, and it's fun to see the passion. It's fun to see I get fired. I was talking over the DMs lately to she's okay. To Duty. Shout out to Christina. Duty in the house. She loves the gloves, a rising MMA voice in these parts, and a good person. So shout out to you, Duty. She was, we were talking about, what these type of victories mean to those countries. And I always romanticize on the boxing side the same thing, the idea that, Louis Schmeling too, in the height of World War II, and everyone in the U.S. huddled by a radio, that their guy winning felt like we won the war. When sports and combat sports in particular, because it's so much more passionate than other sports because of the real life or death realities of what they're doing in the cage, even though it's under the guise of prize fighting and sport. When a fight can mean so much to a group of people who need it at that moment, like these Ukrainian fighters in recent years scoring big wins, even though AJ tried to steal Usyk's moment after the second one with that big Forrest Griffin-like meltdown after the Tito Ortiz retirement. You know what I'm talking about. It is remarkable what combat sports can be to people, what it can mean. And it goes beyond just, hey, I bet on that guy, you get bet on that guy. Let's see these knuckleheads, make each other bleed. I love those moments when champions come back to their country and get off the airplane and people are just like, because it's not, the athlete becomes the conductor of joy for the whole group around them. He didn't win, they won, right? Right? And it just so happens that this rivalry contains some of the best fighters in the world right now. And it just so happens that this group of Dagestan hammers seemed unbeatable up until a few minutes ago, right? Like seemed like they were of a different ilk. But these Georgians, all right? These Georgians can bang, okay? You know what I mean? What do you got for me, Duty? The Georgian-Dagestan rivalry has been going on for a long time. Yeah, I'm sure it probably has. Beyond MMA, probably too. You know what I mean? I'm always up on the old politics or the old real life. Sometimes I like to hide my bubble away from that real stuff because all it does is lead you to frustration and depression. But yeah, that's where we're going right there. So that's something. Thank you to everybody for playing. All right, I'm trying to stay with these comments in live motion. We'll get Mikey back going on here. All right. One more from you, Duty. Hit me up. As a Georgian, I would like to proclaim that after this Saturday's performance, we will adopt Paul Hughes. We had a meeting, all 3.5 million. Okay, so Paul Hughes, formerly, right, born in Australia, raised in Northern Ireland, formerly of that descent, is now Georgian. Thank you very much. Nosita, what do you got going on here? I got my Marab shirt in the mail yesterday. I mean, dude, he won my heart over. I counted them out. That's why I played that Ray Longo clip on Have You Seen This Shit on Monday, where he's like, anyone that thought Marab was ducking, fuck off. Like, and I'm like, yeah, I deserve that. I deserve that. The thing is about this game, and the game that we play in front of these microphones, which is half entertainment and real and journalism, is ultimately that I want to be wrong in big ways sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Because, and I don't like to believe that I have any type of power to influence things, and I'm not trying to play games and talking down somebody's chances in a reverse psychology way to rile them up. But sometimes it just works that way. And I want to be wrong in these type of scenarios, because it is the surprises in this game, the theater of the unexpected, that ultimately is the drug of it, right? I love to see stories like Marab. So get that Marab shirt and wear it, Nosita, okay? Next, there you go. There you go. Okay, there you go. There we go. Oh, okay, we're making friends right here, Duty. Meet my guy, Nosita. Great guy, Main Card Minute podcast. Thank you very much. All right, that's the Georgian love portion of the show. I've never been to the nation of Georgia, right? Been to the state a few times. Not that impressed. Not that impressed, but shout out to Russell from Georgia. Thank you very much. All right. They got nice mountains up there, okay? All right. What do we got going on here? Lazy Bed, thank you for the support, LB. All right. I don't know anything about you, but thank you. All right. Dude, I wanted to start having people on. Like, let's go. And then all you guys were like, no, we don't want donks. We want you, BC. All right. Well, all right. All right, there we go. It's BC's MMA debut. What's the walkout tune? So people have asked me that over the years a lot. And maybe my answer is kind of outdated, but I always hover around 2 Van Halen songs off of the third record. You know what I'm talking about here. You know what I'm talking about, right? I'm losing my brain at the moment, but I'm talking about Mean Streets, or I'm talking about Unchained. I mean, could you imagine me walking out to those Eddie riffs at the beginning, right? Damn. But I'm trying to modernize this answer for you. And there are times that I'm, in the car and on Sirius XM, and something will, Fair Warning was the Van Halen album I was looking for. Thank you. Caught up. Thank you. Sometimes I'll hear that. I'll be like, actually, that's the walkout song for me. That's the one right there. Okay. So I'll get back to you on that, Lazy Bed. But it's gotta be, you gotta have that riff. I mean, when Chiesa comes out to Stranglehold by Ted Nugent, like that opening riff just is like, damn. Yeah, you want it to represent the energy that you're bringing to this, okay? It's got to be upbeat. It's got to be aggressive. It's got to be electric guitar. I mean, could you imagine me coming out to Mean Streets? I mean, come on. Put on Fair Warning right now and remember what it's like to be a man, okay? Or a woman, however you get down. Thank you very much. What do you got for me, Nosita? AC/DC TNT would not suck, would not be a bad idea under any point. You can't come out to nobody. I think here's the deal. We may have to retire certain songs with people. Nobody can come out to Thunderstruck by AC/DC, but Arturo Gatti, right? And he's not coming through that door, unfortunately. Nobody can come out to Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes, except for Triple G, and I don't think he's coming through that door anyway. But I like that idea, because we retire numbers for famous teams. Like if you're at Boston Celtic, you're like, dude, I can't wear 1 through 40. They're all retired. I got to be, something. We should do that with songs, man. You know what I mean? I mean, there's certainly some very iconic songs that are linked with great fighters in UFC history, the ones that have stuck with one song. But that would be awesome. I don't think, even Vlad Klitschko, when the second half of his career, when he came out to Can't Stop by the Chili Peppers, it became iconic for him. All right. So I'll give him that respect. Thank you very much. All right. Yeah. I love men, as Triple G would say, beautiful men. Thank you, Eric Fulton. I love this man. I mean, who are you talking about? Me? I mean, Long Island Luke? I don't know. But thank you. Thank you very much. Lazy Bed, what are you coming out to? Black Label Society Berserkers. I don't know that track off the top of my head, but I will look that up. And I love me some Zakk Wylde. I saw Ozzy live in 2002 at the Hartford Civic Center. That was the darkest year of my life, and we did dark things in that parking lot. Damn. And Zakk Wylde did an extended like 10-minute solo that had teases of Eruption in it, teases of Hendrix in it. I mean, I was losing my mind, losing my boat. Yeah, there you go. Okay, thank you. DJ Serenity, what you got? Tool's cover of Stranglehold is dope. I mean, it's a dope song. You know what's a dope song too is Frankenstein by the Edgar Winter Group. I know I'm living in the 70s vinyl bubble and not all of you are coming with me, but that's fine. That's how I get down, okay? All right. Dixon Cider, it's Raining Men by Weather Girls. That would definitely be funny. Yeah, so I've never been a big Weidman guy, but I respect him, and I've never been a big Tom Petty guy, but I respect him. That is pretty iconic with him. And do you remember, by the way, that Chael comes out to that country song? I asked him about it in interviews. He never met the guy, and the guy died. Daryl, what's his name? That wrote that song. Too Much Fun, right? It's such an odd tune to come out to, but I guess it kind of sums up to some degree Chael's oddness. All right, but thank you for dealing with my limitations here today. All right, I'm trying my best here. I'm going to miss some fun comments. I'm going to, but let's get to everybody. Let's have a good time. Continue to talk to each other in the chat. Just put that racism and misogyny aside and try to, swim through the middle. Okay. What do you got? What do you got, Duty? I'll walk out to one of the Witcher soundtracks. I don't know that. All right. Hurt by Jack. People love that tune, and I get why. That cover of 9 Inch Nails, that's for some reason that's always been a flip the channel to me. It's just maybe because it's so old and decrepit when he recorded that, and obviously that's the charm in it, but it's just there's something about that I can't do it. Okay, there we go. All right, let's keep it going. You guys have been great pumping in these super chat questions for me, and I vow to get through them all. So let's is that Reggie? Hold on, I gotta close that door one more time. It's you can't blame me, blame the cat. All right. Reggie, come here. Come on, dude, come here. I had to give Reggie a breathing treatment, like an asthma breathing treatment today, because he's still all congested from eating all the fake snow off the Christmas tree. The guy's a maniac. All right, here we go. Let's live life together, Reg. You ready for this? Let's go. Who do we got here? Kagate Kakmak, one of my favorite listeners, one of my favorite viewers. All right. BC, since you asked last time, I'm from Turkey. That's the reason for my odd name. I didn't say it was odd. I think it's fantastic. Okay. I may have formerly said it's odd, but that was the old me. Would you agree that John Mayer may be the best guitarist alive today? Man, you guys know the type of questions to ask that will derail me for 35 to 40 minutes. That's what I've learned. That's what I've come to understand right here. All right. Reggie, big fan of you. Thank you, buddy. Thank you. Keep being you. Keep living your life. Okay. Thank you. Yes. So here's the deal. Is he the best guitarist alive today? He's not. But he's better than you think, better than he has any right to be, meaning that he started off as a pop crafting, panty wiggler type guy, right? And, even though I still F with his first album and like it, and had an odd connection to him, being that he's from Fairfield, Connecticut, a half hour away from where I grew up. So I've always kind of cheered for him. But in the beginning, even though he showed, I remember his first live DVD that came out after the first album. First time we got to really see in a public level how creepy his guitar faces are. That O face that he rocks out with all the time. Jeepers, creepers, it's disgusting. But you got a feeling of, okay, man, this guy might be better on guitar than this type of songs are going to show us. As he evolved, that became true. I'll never forget when my dad bought that live CD called Try! That he put out, that power trio that he had with Pino Palladino and the other guy, and he's doing Hendrix Band of Gypsies covers, and he's showing people like, hey, you may think you know me. I might be that Popcraft guy who sleeps with all of the hot women in the history of pop culture, from the 90s, and then said absolutely ridiculous things in that Playboy interview. But he had no business being this good. And he showed on that live CD that there's something else there. And when I talk about the connection of kind of knowing him but not knowing him, I don't mean a connection through O'Teal, his bandmate in Dead & Company. I mean, my best friend, I got two best friends growing up. My guy, Ed, his college roommate went to high school same year with John Mayer. So we used to go to parties in Fairfield at this lake house all the time in the summers. And John Mayer would be there sitting in a separate room with like a couple people hanging out, drinking, playing acoustic guitar to himself, no audience, no one watching. And I didn't realize that he was growing up. And I guess it's understandable if you're familiar with the Room for Squares debut album, and in particularly the first single. But, you know, he was distant, a loner to some degree, had friends, but people, you know, whatever. Crazy that guy would become not only the world famous, you know, artist, and all of his stuff may not be for you. I mess with a lot of his albums, not all of them, but most of them. Born and Raised is very good. I even like the one that came out in the pandemic, the Sob Rock. I thought that was very well done. There's a lot going on there layer wise musically than meets the ear, meaning like it sounds like it's a little sugary, but there's a lot of thought and craft. But then you go to the Sphere or go wherever Dead and Company is playing. And I don't think they're going to be playing for a lot longer. I know they're coming back for another run this year. Who knows, right? A lot of the guys in the band are very, very old and original members and aging. But he has no right to be that great. And it took him a few years with Dead and Company to stop basically trying to win over the Dead audience by showing he can play Jerry relatively close, or however close you think he is. And Jerry's up here, right? But once he stopped trying to mimic that and instead tried to be him through that lens, got a little bit more jazzier, got a little bit, you know, brought out his blues sensibilities. Even knowing his repertoire, material, history, in the Sphere that night was absolutely blown away by how much he can noodle, he can get after it. And he's a very emotional guitar player, a lot of peaks in his playing, and it, you know, plays with the physical performance. It plays in perfectly, and not the greatest guitarist alive, but way better than you actually would guess or maybe even know he is. Okay, that's what I'm saying there. Joe Bonamassa, never got into him, have a lot of respect for the name, certainly know of the caliber that we're talking about here. What do you got? Bivol, Joey Santiago, not familiar with his work. All right. I think somebody else threw out a couple good ones. Yeah, Derek Trucks. Thank you, Street 1234. Derek Trucks, in terms of guys that are alive and playing today, has got to be in my top 3 of favorite guitarists. No question about it. Like Mark Knopfler, I don't think he uses a pick either. It's just absolutely incredible. Perfect Speller, dude. I'm a big Trey guy. Absolutely. Seen Fish a million times, you know, a lot of times live, but seen Trey a lot solo, and absolutely is of another level. Just different roots, comes from a progressive rock background, you know, and in a lot of ways where didn't come the traditional blues rock route to get to where he is today. But yeah, somebody had to say it, Rob H. Mark Knopfler, one of the best of all time. There we go. For me, I'm always going to be a Hendrix guy, number one. I got a lot of love for Eddie Van Halen, even though that particular style isn't exactly my favorite. I'm more of the roots blues rock based bass. So it's, you know, for me, it's Hendrix, it's Jerry Garcia, it's Dwayne Allman, it's Dickie Betts. I mean, those are my people. David Gilmour, absolutely. All right, let's keep it going. I mean, what is this life for? I guess it's to sit here in my basement and talk in circles and have you guys be entertained by it. All right, there we go. Thank you. Let's go over to March of 34. Heck of a name there. I don't know what it means, but thank you for supporting me. Hey, BC, great content as always. What are your thoughts on the announced Logan Paul versus Jake Paul fight for the Max app? Yeah, that was a big curveball thrown into the combat sports news waves / let's check everyone's journalism skills, because everybody saw the very cryptic tweets from both brothers that made it seem like there was a boxing poster. They floated a date of Thursday, March 27th, and of course the app. But that's the same day as the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament. Max, you know, in the same Warner family as TBS, is a part of that coverage. So you're like, okay, it's not going to be a fight on a Thursday night while they've got college basketball going on. Also, while I do think this is a fight that could happen one day to try to basically what's the biggest spectacle we can make, and that's what the Pauls are about. It would be really bad timing right now, in my opinion, for Jake coming off of the success of the Mike Tyson fight, but the obvious grown and of what it became and what it ultimately was, and all the talk about was it fixed or did Jake just carry him and all that other BS. Like, it's just to go from that into a similar fight right now where we're gonna have the same questions. It would have been a bad look and bad timing. You saw the reports, I'm sure, from Mike Hoppinger and confirmed by Chris Mannix of SI that it looks to be a reality series. I know there's going to be a big announcement tomorrow, a press conference, what have you. Right from the beginning, I smelt it out too and was like, this is probably a documentary, a reality show where they're going head to head. Maybe whatever, right? Maybe they're launching another body spray for Walmart. Hold on, I got to close the door because Reggie's ridiculous. All right. Under the old setup, I could manipulate the door without you knowing it. All right, because it was right around the corner. Not anymore. Not anymore. So, I was shocked to see so many people, journalists and sites, just kind of run with like, looks like they're fighting, blah, blah, blah. No, they're not going to fight. Ultimately, I don't think they should, even though if you've been following my work for years, when the Pitbull brothers teased this, I got a little too into it. There's something about it that is always going to be enticing, even though it's inevitably going to be a sad ending, meaning one guy might hurt the other, right, to go too far, or it's going to be the complete opposite. It's going to be a hug fest and glorified sparring. Also, like, Jake's a way better boxer right now. I know there's, so is there some, like, what if they did it in MMA, for example? It'd be a little more interesting, but it's still weird and gross to begin with. And I have such a bad taste in my mouth, March of 34, from the Tyson Paul fight, that I'm happy it doesn't look like they're actually doing this. I don't know what's the next move for Jake. I really think he should go back, get Tommy Fury off the couch. I read where Tommy Fury split with his dad, and he's trying to get back with that reality star girl. I mean, he hasn't fought in forever. The Darren Till fight fell apart. Go take the Tommy Fury fight and tell everybody, but do it in the UK and tell everybody that said, the first time you fought a real boxer, you lost. Go out there and beat him, knock him out. Like, go out there and do it. Win us back over with that, and then make your next move. But ultimately, I'm a little down on talking about the Pauls and legitimate fights because they've worn me out. All right. You know who I need? Saul on a roof. Let's go. Louisville's finest. Saul, I saw, by the way, you want to talk about Peach's Delight, brother. Okay. I saw that Instagram story you put out today. You were in the truck. You were out being a real man working for your family. And did you buy a Dr. Pepper flavored beef jerky? And I saw you gave it 1 out of 10. And I mean, dude, I hope you took that whole thing down. That's the thing. If you're going to go in and try something that is going to be gross and awful for you and all this stuff, you got to go the distance with it. Those are the rules. Okay. Saul saying, and by the way, Saul, thanks for always getting thank you. You don't need to do that. I need to get your back more often. I don't mean like in a Diddy weird way. Have you ever listened to Thundercat? Seen him twice live, once on acid, a true Peach's Delight. Yeah. I saw Dead Company on something similar. Oh my God. I will say this, Saul. No, I haven't. I know of him. I know of the ability. I think you may have mentioned in this chat before, but I've seen a little bit of his work and I'm very impressed and I want to see more. Give me time. Give me time. All right. Give me time and I will. And then, you and me will be hanging out like best bros right here. Okay. Let's keep it going. Banana Clipper. Thank you. Great name. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for supporting. BC, please listen to the album Souvlaki by Slow Dive. Remember I said that we need to, protect, push up, hold up, boost up, love on the people in our lives, the musical shamans who make it their business to spread joy and in art and goodwill to others. Aaron Bronstetter is one of those for me. Doesn't have to be as great of a friend as he is. Will randomly, he's a vinyl trader himself, will randomly send me a bunch of records he'd love for me to get into. And this is one of those where he's like, hey, download this on the Tidal app tomorrow. Check it out. You're going to like it. I think it's from the 90s. I've listened to it about 3 times all the way through, Banana Clipper, and I'm coming around. I'm coming around and I'm getting into it. Okay. I like their style. I like where they're going with that. Give me a little bit more time on that. Thank you, Aaron Bronster. I mean, I've had a few of these in my life, right? My dad sitting me down with Jimi Hendrix's Purple Haze. My Uncle Dave making me mixtapes and sending them in the mail to me, making me, you need these people in your life. Okay. All right. Shout out to John, big MK fan, who sent me that the record I can't put down right now by that Taiwanese math rock band called Elephant Gym. And the album is entitled World, and it's blowing my brain right now. Like that's a weird mental image, but it's just I can't get enough, and it's weird and I love it. Thank you very much. Okay. Let's keep it going here. You know I love me some J Ray BO2 all the time. I'm talking about him. Thank you for coming in here. J Ray says I turned 23 on Sunday. Hey, shout out to that. But see, this is a win. Celebrate that ish. All right. By the way, my kids, my twins, also born on February 2nd, Groundhog's Day, and turning 17 on Sunday. I get back from Vegas just in time to celebrate. Those two are my rock, my inspiration, my everything, because of what they've persevered through, the curveballs life has thrown them, being born 4.5 months premature and less than 2 pounds, and all the stuff they went through. So you got to celebrate every win. You turn 2-3 as a big win. Any stories from that season of life? Yeah, that was the worst stretch of my life's history. Okay. And I was 23 in 2001. So July of 2001, I turned 23. I dropped out of college and moved out of my parents' house when I was 21 in the year 2000, right before my 22nd birthday. So because I didn't go away to college, I was a commuter. I transferred to a 4-year school, but I was still a commuter, working 3 jobs. 2 of them were newspaper jobs, writing about sports. So I was advancing my career. And that, by the way, made it easier to drop out, which was one of the poorest decisions I've ever made in my life. And I paid for it in many long journeys and in many ways, right? It's like being behind the 8 ball for the rest of your life if you have ambitions in your career. But it was a tough time in my life. Thank you. I moved out and had, college is supposed to be 4 years. I basically had, 4 atrociously rambunctious rock and roll years living in that apartment. So me turning 23 was at the height of debauchery and living in a crappy third floor apartment with a crappy job and a crappy life, but living that life, LIVIN, right? Getting loose in turn 4 on a daily basis. So my memories are painful and dark and depressive, unfortunately. Thank you that I pulled out, God. Thank you very much. And thank you, Jay Ray. So I wish you, Jay, nothing but promising future and love and hope and joy and all that stuff. Don't go the dark route like the BC did. Ultimately, I'm finally guilt-free from that stretch in my life because I now recognize I was hopelessly depressed and had no idea of what mental health was. In hindsight, right? In hindsight. So it was easy to throw it all away because you're just seeking peace and relief. Don't do that, Jay Ray. Get after it. All right. Let's go. Let's go. It's time. It's time to climb the mountains in our lives. So if Sandine wants to get up on Everest, that's fine. I'm climbing the mountain Saturday night with the microphone in my hand. Okay. Let's get after it. Let's do things. All right. What, Sandine, did you drop out too? I left community college for the chair force. Yeah. I think you meant to say Air Force, but I'm not really sure. Okay. And that's probably when you joined the armed forces where you started to pay for things. To be very, between you and me, to be honest. What else you got for me, Sandine? When I was 23, I got loose on every turn, literally. Yeah. I mean, it's like, but part of me is like, yeah, I don't regret any of that. It was great. No, it was hard. It was awful. I had no money on top of that too. Right. Yeah, I'm sure you did tear it up inside. What kind of chat is this? I haven't heard from in a while. Mark Andre Burial. You in the chat today? Let's hit it. All right, what else you got? Is this Jay? Jay coming out? Not Jay Aaron. This is Jay Allen. This is my guy right here. Okay, big boxing guy, old school, historic fan of boxing. This guy Jay. Thank you for the support, brother. What up, BC? What current wash boxers? So that's a great question. What current wash boxers would be perfect for BKFC? Well, some of them have snuck on of late, and I don't necessarily mean Joey DeWaco, who was a -500 betting favorite and got stopped in Philly on Saturday in his BKFC debut. I mean, that's the thing about BKFC. No matter how gnarly you are, you get hit with hard knuckles right in the mouth a few times, like Luke Rockhold did, you may just be like, this ain't it, right? You'd need, so I think, like we saw, I don't know if you've seen Alfredo Angulo recently made his BKFC debut, and a few boxers have crossover. Austin Trout's actually a champion and successful, but he's one of the rare guys in this gnarly circle doing real boxing and kind of winning with skill. It's very rare in these circles. Although, to be fair, shout out Christine Ferreira, the 125 champ, who has really found her niche there, was kind of a journeywoman boxer and turned it around and uses a combination of skill and power to get ahead. The female fights in BKFC are the gnarliest. That Taylor Starling Beck Rawlings one was bloody and crazy. You get what you pay for with that one, okay? Ideally, the boxing guys, you'd want crazy brawling types, the Jesus Soto Carras types. I mean, you remember the best picture ever that boxing Twitter ever had fun with in 2014 when somebody went to the fights at the MGM in Vegas and Jesus Soto Carras was drunk in the outside the arena doors, walking in shirtless, just those are the type of guys in theory that would absolutely be perfect. But I would like to see if there are guys, think of like an Andre Berto, who's a tough guy, comes from an MMA family, dad literally fought in the UFC. I always wonder, he's at he had that comeback boxing rematch with Robert Guerrero on the last Showtime card, but he's seems to be done now. Somebody like him who is an action fighter, has skill, of course, but has that toughness. I'd like to see him in on there. But you can name your favorite brawler, your favorite journeyman, and wonder, is this something where whatever limitations they had in the real boxing ring, would it not show up here? I've seen people say this a few times, Kelly Pavlik, right? Because he did get out of the sport completely relatively young, maybe fueled by alcoholism and some issues he had there. And it looked for a bit like he might come back, and then he ballooned up in weight, but in a good way. And he got jacked, like heavyweight jacked. I wonder a guy like that could actually be really gnarly in this. That's an interesting. All right, let's keep it flowing. Let's keep it going. Two Changs is here. Okay. Two Changs is here. Did I just, Alan, I may have just posted something and deleted it instantly. I don't know what's going on. I barely know how to use this. Okay, barely. Let's keep it going. The Two Changs, thank you for your submission. Thank you, brother. This guy stays at casinos all night. He don't care. This guy's living BC life at age 22. Okay, that's the way the Two Changs gets down. A lot of potential upsets in the next month. You could have Joseph Parker over Daniel Dubois, Madrimov over Virgil Ortiz Jr., Gilles Zhang over Ajit Caballel. No Diddy. Which is most likely? I am starting to get on board, even though I don't consider it a monster upset. I mean, what are the odds in Madrimov Ortiz? Because I think Madrimov is really sneaky in this fight. And, it helped that he pulled out of that Boachuk brawl that was going to happen and focused on this one. Virgil Ortiz Jr. has proven already that at 54, he's very much still viable. But he's gonna earn the fights he wins. He's gonna be in brawls, and he's gonna use his skill and his will to outduel you. Madrimov showed a lot in that Bud fight. I would pick Madrimov straight up in this. What are the odds here, Two Changs? That's something we got to figure out, right? Let me see. Give me 1 second and click on the old site and best fight odds. You know where I'm going with this, all right? Let me see what we got going on here. All right, they don't have that at the moment. I'm not on the boxing page. There we go. Luke always says that I don't know what I'm doing here, technology, and he might be right on some things. Okay, DraftKings at the moment, interesting, -125. Virgil Ortiz, the favorite over the +100 Madrimov. Two Changs, you're in Vegas, put some money on Madrimov here in a big way. I mean, because I get people are saying, oh, you're overblowing how good he did against Bud. He really just moved a lot and made it hard. Well, yeah, he did that, but he also completely made Bud fight his fight, Madrimov's fight, and bedazzled arguably the best fighter in the world. And I know he didn't win. We're not going to be over here, overly celebrating, like people have accused me of doing, overly celebrating people who lost but did really well in doing it, like Paul Hughes. But sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes that is the story of the fight. Dude, Madrimov's a higher class fighter, skill-wise, in my opinion. I think he can win this, very much so. But he's also got to prove that Crawford performance is really him. And sometimes it's the one night wonder thing that happens. Somebody overachieves on the perfect night so well that you're like, that's who he is moving forward. We got to see that. As we stand now, two chains, you have Dubois minus 225 on DraftKings, plus 175 Joseph Parker. By the way, that rematch February 22nd in the main event for the light heavyweight crown, Beterbiev minus 125, Bivol plus 100. Very interesting stuff. And you mentioned Zhang. He's a plus 120 to the minus 155 Caballel. Look, heavyweights are wild. Zhang is feast or famine because he does throw a perfect straight left that's accurate and powerful, but he'll gas out every 3 rounds and whatever. Very much Zhang can win this fight. And I like Caballel, and he's rising. He's going to be a fun guy to watch. But Parker's live, even though Dubois got to prove the same thing that Madrimov did. Dubois got to prove, and I mean, Dubois at least has 2 fights in a row where he looks changed. But still, he has never had a performance and a victory like the version of him that fought that Joshua fight. Full on cyborg. I will not take no for an answer. I think he's on his run right now. Kind of like the person Masvidal became in 2019. There was an expiration date on that, right? It was never going to be able to last at his age, but he had so much motivation, so much, a true epiphany in the woods of Central America on that reality show. I think Dubois is still riding his wave at that moment. Okay. There we go. So yeah, I would pick Madrimov ultimately on this one. JS, I think Madrimov Ortiz is a potential fight of the year. Yeah, dude, right now, anything involving Virgil Ortiz Jr. moving forward will be a fight of the year candidate. You have to love this guy. And I give him so much credit for being out of the sport for so long with those unresolved health issues and still showing us the fighter that he is, and then coming back at 54 and he's a factor. I mean, the Boachuk fight was amazing. I know people think Boachuk won that, but it was absolutely amazing. So he is at 54. He's got to fight his way to win these fights. So he's going to make them all really, really fun. Duty, what else you got? Did you see the Beterbiev-Bivol 2 poster? I thought it was absolutely sick. Yeah, I did. It's that, I don't know why we're calling it the last crescendo, by the way. I know they put these themes on these, like the original, UFC pay-per-views would always have like UFC 25, semicolon, the reckoning, It was cool for its day. Last crescendo. It ain't going to be a last crescendo if Bivol goes out there and rights the wrong of that first fight and wins it. We'll be talking about a trilogy, won't we? Although we could be talking about the winner of Benavidez-Morel against the winner of this fight too. But the poster's fantastic. The fight's amazing. I love that they're doing it so soon. Damn, that first fight deserved better in the fight of the year balloting. It's hard. I mean, how are you going to overcome Usyk Fury 1? How are you going to... There are people that I know that are great fight fans that are like, no, Usyk Fury 2 is actually better than Usyk Fury 1. First of all, they were wrong, but I love the passion. But you had Boachuk Ortiz. You had so many of these. Beterbiev-Bivol 1, even though it was certainly far more technical than, sometimes those technical classics are perfect enough as is to actually be in the contention here. The rematch is going to be even better. Why? Because I feel like both have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder to prove, Beterbiev proving that he really deserved to win the first time, and Bivol trying to right the wrong, that they're naturally both going to bring it more. Look, Benavidez-Morel on Saturday is going to be separate for me working for them. I would have said the same thing. It's going to be freaking awesome. So will Beterbiev-Bivol too. It's pretty awesome that we're kind of set up to put the winners against each other. Let's go. All right. Damn. Get me fired up over here. Okay. Thank you, Two Chanks, for starting this conversation. Let's see what else we got going on here. Oh yeah, we hit that already. Thank you, Jay Allen, for your service. All right. Thank you, Sandine, for your service for this country. And I assume for keeping the sex trade alive. I don't know if I support that, but thank you. All right. Hey, Arturo from London, my guy, AZ Ray Videos. This guy's the best. I met this guy in person. Didn't shiv me. Love this guy. When is the Reggie merch coming out? So we are, meaning MK, Luke Thomas and I, it's in the process of like really mapping out our transition to run the merch ourselves ultimately. We're talking to partners. We're setting things up. Average Joe has been amazing as a consultant, as a mentor in this area. Average Joe's a brilliant man. And I know you guys maybe only know him from his graphic work, and he's got working with so many fighters right now. But that guy's got a heart for the animals. Great fight fan, smart guy. we're going to get it. And part of this, once we get this foundation built, website, distribution, all that, we're going to have the ability to have BCX merch. If Luke wants to bring his merch from his solo thing over, right? Main card minute merch for all I care. Let's link us all up. We're all one big family. That's when that's going to be the first. I mean, I could just print out shirts that say BCX or have a big hot dog on it, but we got to get some Mr. October shirts on the streets. You know, it's my boy. It's my guy, right? It's my guy. You know, the thing is, as creepy as it is for me to love that cat that much, and I don't think it's creepy, just the other people in my family and maybe half of you out there. I never had my own cat before. And there's a fun old story that my wife and I always tell of when we were dating and I was about to get my first cat, living in an apartment with my friends. And she was like, don't do it. You'll regret it. You're not ready. Don't do it. And the reason why she said that was because she knew she was going to marry me and she wanted me to adopt her cats, and they were amazing. And 18 years later, here we are, right? But I never got that cat back then. So Reggie's my boy, all right? That's what I'm talking about, Arturo. That's you know, he's not always loved in this house. All right. All right. Let's go back to Two Changs. R.I.P. Michael Katz, and shout out to the days when big time papers had big time boxing writers. Shout out Calvin Watkins of Dallas. Yes. Grew up reading him. I remember seeing his work on ESPN Dallas, big boxing guy, by the way. Yes. So Michael Katz, longtime boxing scribe, passed away, and I did really enjoy seeing the tributes from everybody, from Dan Rayfield to Lou DiBella to Keith Idek, you know, everybody who's so I've definitely been at fights when Katz was there. I don't remember ever meeting him particularly, but he fits that. So when I came into the game, when I first started showing up at fights, 2011 was that year when I was working at ESPN for Mikey's dad, the late great Anthony Mormile, one of my favorite people ever, a guy who drove me so hard and made me, you know, the responsible journalist and aggressive go-getter I am today. He gave me some early gifts in my career, sent me to fights when I really, you know, I wasn't a writer at that point, but let me get a taste of it and go there and find ways to create content and do work. And, you know, I got to meet some of these old guard guys on the way out. I was there before George Kimball passed away, you know, who wrote Four Kings. I'm reading it right now. And, you know, got to meet him and see him. And another one of those, I'm trying to think of the guy's name. It'll come to me in a second. I mean, this generation is going, you know, and the thing about Katz was the first story you ever heard was that press row fight between Michael Katz and Ron Borges. And Katz was of that old guard, grizzled, grumpy, not afraid to cause confrontation or to be in the midst of it, not afraid to have like aggressive beefs with other people in the industry that could lead to fist fights, and wasn't afraid to be the type of writer that was fan friendly because he got after it. He called out fighters. He was opinionated. He didn't give a damn. You know, I love that. I read a great feature once on Larry Murch, who's still alive, by the way, in a, you know, boxing's godfather in a lot of ways. And, you know, he came not from this era, he came from the, you know, an era before, right? But he came up through what you can, in a lot of ways, call like the last truly great era of sports writing. To hear the care that generation had and the balls that they had and the aggressiveness. I mean, you know, combat sports journalism today is a sham and a joke compared to, you know, decades gone by. And that's the development. That's the evolution, for better or worse, of the industry, and going digital and being more now about podcasts and entertainment. And, you know, you become a writer, maybe in hopes of becoming a on-camera person and eventually a boxing announcer. That's been a path for some people. I'm one of those people. It just kind of happened, but it soon became, can I really go from here to there? But, you know, the old guard were back in the day when newspapers mattered and their words mattered. And I love the moxie that these guys had. They were Wild West gunslingers, you know, and, you know, and there's still some of that today. I mean, Dan Rayfield's a guy who I've worked with for years and been a colleague with, and, you know, enjoy running into him at fights. And I do respect, you know, that Dan's got a little bit of that gnarliness in him too. I've seen him almost get after it in press row fights that needed to be broken up and stuff. And, this is the Wild West, and something Dan always told me. And I brought this up in the 20 questions interview I did with Dan. If you didn't watch that on the BCX, it's a fun hour and a half ride of looking back over Dan's, career, which is ongoing. But, I referenced in that the thing that Dan told me. I think it was one of the first times that Shannon Briggs threatened to kill Dan to his face, and then on Twitter, like, the next time I see you, I'm knocking you out. And I'm like, Dan, aren't you afraid? I was, young editor at ESPN, and Dan's like, it's contact sport, man. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I signed up for it. And I remember thinking, like, damn, that's pretty gnarly. It's a pretty gnarly way to look at it. But yeah, shout out RIP Michael Katz. Didn't know you, knew your work, knew your reputation. Yeah. I mean, it's weird I felt when I got into boxing in terms of becoming a journalist in 2010, 2011, getting opportunities at ESPN, showing up at fights, there was still that romanticism in the air of like, this is the last bastion in journalism and sports in general of just complete Wild West mayhem, and it's one of the things that still draws me to the game, frustrates me a lot, but it definitely is there. All right. We got more great questions from the people here. All right. Let's hear from Stoic Otter. Brian, how did you meet Luke Thomas? We've been up and down this road a lot, but if you missed it, I certainly can tell you. I didn't know Luke Thomas from Adam for years. Saw him for the first time when he was on that Spike TV show. I forgot the name of it that he did with, what's that guy's name? Nate Quarry and Craig Carton. It was like, oh, that's that MMA guy. Ran into him the first time in line at the media workout in the MGM Grand lobby for Canelo versus Floyd fight week. It was my first trip to Las Vegas, first Las Vegas fight covering in person. And, as I say often, boxing needed a super fight. There was a 7-year gap, more or less, and that, or 5-year gap or whatever, 6-year gap. And that fight just arrived at the right time with the right players. And that was still the most magical fight week I've ever been a part of. It wasn't just, it's my first Vegas trip. It was such a weird crossroads matchup of Floyd versus Canelo, old versus young. But it also, people forget, that was the first weigh-in that at the MGM Grand Garden Arena, they did the full arena. They didn't, carve off a part of it. They did the full arena. And I remember walking to the front of the, in front of the stage where the press sat, and the music was, the bass was so loud, the music was jumping that my organs were like shifting and shaking. And it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. I was just like, this is a scene, and the whole arena was packed and people were going sick. And by the way, I was out the night before because it was my first Vegas trip, so I had to get after it. I remember that first night in Vegas, I was up because I probably woke up at 3 a.m. to get the flight, and then got to Vegas and was still out that night, up for like 26 consecutive hours. I remember Andy Ruiz, it was his birthday. We ran into him in a bar, he bought shots for everybody of whiskey. It was great. Andy Ruiz Jr. Yeah, it really happened. But that second night, I went after it. I was out till like 4 a.m. And as I was walking back into the MGM lobby, the fans were already lined up for the free tickets to get to that Floyd Canelo weigh-in. And the line was down the long hallway there and around the corner at 4 a.m. for like a 1 p.m. weigh-in. Insane, ridiculous. And on top of that, Richard Schaefer then had a Golden Boy with Oscar De La Hoya, and they had the best stable in boxing because Al Heyman brought all of his fighters to Showtime in 2013 and merged them with Golden Boy. And they announced one after another every fighter on the roster, and they came out on stage, and it was almost this moment like, this is what boxing can be. We are the best, and this is what boxing can be. And I remember just like, there was so much magic in the air. So I meet Luke there, talked to him in line. I remember it was particular. We were in line. Matisse and was fighting Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia was in the ring, and his father and trainer Angel Garcia was having that very famous on-camera argument with Marcos Villegas of Fight Hub, and we were standing like right next to them when it was happening. I didn't know Luke. I didn't talk to Luke much in the ensuing years. If I saw him at a fight, I'd say hello. He would have me on his radio show like once a year, usually when I was at a Floyd fight, to preview it. I remember he had me on in 2017 when I left ESPN for CBS, and I went, and it was the first time I was covering MMA and boxing like full time, being paid for it, like going after it. before that I was an editor contributing. Right now I'm the guy, and he had me on a little bit more regular after that. But it really was right when he took over for Ariel. I remember thinking like, I like this guy. He's a little gruff. I mean, he was great. Look, let's be fair. We know who Luke is. You see him in public in those years. Like, he'll say hi, but it's not always like, hey, bro, how's the family? How are you doing? It was very, very distant. It was very like, Luke's very gruff and angry most of the time when you run into him. But I do remember talking to him more when he took over Ariel's spot. And it was a tough position to be in, but he had an opportunity to reframe those platforms and shows with MMA fighting in his image. And I remember, encouraging him and telling him, and I remember telling him straight up, I'm like, first thing I'd do is I would go head to head with Ariel, like directly, like right. And I would make this WCW versus WWF. And I, like the Monday Night Wars, and I'd absolutely bring, I think he told me you would get slaughtered. And I'd be like, so do you know that for sure? Is there any doubt? So you're saying there's a chance, right? Give me that chance. Give me that chance. Anyway, I think we became closer during then. And then it led to Chuck Mindenhall telling Luke when they were out of local people to join the MMAB, hey, you should give this guy BC a chance. And the rest is history. There you go right there. All right. I mean, the thing is, Duty, I'm not aggressive in most areas of my life. On the basketball court, yes. And in this lane, yes, because I've been given big second chances in my life. And I lived that college dropout, underachieving game where it was like, I'm punting away my life and career and dreams and goals. And it's my choice. I'm the one saying, yep, I'm giving it away. I can't go down that road. I can't handle it. So to get that chance the second time around, to watch what my kids gone through, to just fight for air for a day of life, and it changed me. I don't know how it's possible to achieve anything great in life without having had gone through the darkest steps to be able to get there, because it builds a resolve in you. If you come out the right way, that is largely unbreakable, because I have to find out how great I can be. And it's not, I'm not like boasting or bragging. This is just between me and God. I got to find out how good. You gave me a second chance. I got to find out how far I can take it. I want to inspire my kids. I want to make money. I want to do all those things. Yeah, but no, I got to find out at the end of the day what's inside of me and how great I can be. And that was a thing that scared the crap out of me during the really hard times of my life, knowing, as Wilco said in the great song Misunderstood, that there's a fortune inside my brain, but everything I touch turns to rust, right? I don't know how to get out of my own way to unleash what is actually inside of me. That was the issue. That was the problem. That built a lot of guilt and all of that. But thank you. I'm still fighting. I got out of it. Long road, crawling, hands and knees, crawling. But we here, all right? We're bringing it. Let's go. I mean, what do we have to fear, right? I used to be afraid of everything. Everything. I'm still a work in progress, but in the areas that I can have some control, I'm going to go for it. All right? Thank you. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it friggin' going here. Okay. AZ Ray's back at it. My guy, dude, GFL is getting mascots. Are they really? There are some elements of the GFL product that I am kind of encouraged by. Like I heard Darren Owen saying, when we present these cards, we want to let the fans vote for who's in the main event. And he gave a specific example. He's like, if you think the Paige Van Zandt fight is the most attractive, or entertaining, vote for it and we'll make it. That kind of stuff's kind of cool. There's ways to innovate, change this, and make it more interactive. Definitely. Mascots. Dude, what is the obsession with these people in the team shit? Like, are we looking to do team tennis or team golf? No. I mean, yeah, I know there's high school team stuff like that, but no, not on this level. No, stop it. You get one chance to go for it in a lot of ways. All right. Put your best foot forward. This ain't going to work. Damn. All right. Devin Tuck. Also, you should get Eric Bugenhagen on there. So Rick Boogs, is he still at the WWE? I remember right at the tail end of when I could no longer tolerate WWE fandom and being a pro wrestling journalist, as my fan, people that used to follow my wrestling podcast, they remember 2018 SummerSlam. They know about the dirty bed sheets in Brooklyn. They know what happened when, Vince McMahon basically was like, from here on out, I'm going to mail in the storytelling here. I'm just not going to care anymore. And, all the other people were like, well, we've been in this too long. It's fine. It'll get better, blah, blah, blah. The same way I am in boxing, by the way. I am shamelessly the guy that'll go, I'm going to be the last optimist on that hill because it's in me and I freaking love it. Okay. But at the tail end of when I could no longer tolerate this anymore, and it was just a life suck in terms of the time that you need to, I would say, if you're going to do a wrestling podcast, 2 times a week, like I was, and you want to try to be the best podcast in the world, you have that level of ambition, then the amount of things you have to watch each week is not even remotely equal to the amount of joy that it will give you back, right? Or at least it was at that point. I'm sure booking has changed in the post-Vince era, and I see a lot of people very excited nowadays. But at the tail end of me being able to care about it, Rick Boogs arrives in NXT, and he's the tie-dyed Zubaz pants wearing, rock and roll power riff doing this, and I remember meeting him. I pissed next to him at WrestleMania in 2019 at the Giant Stadium. He was, for whatever reason, in this, they put the journalists up in the, the football media box. And, I think he whizzed next to me. Nobody beats the whiz. And, we said, what's up? And I think I even mentioned that I follow him on Twitter, whatever. But then I fell out of wrestling. I didn't follow where he's gone since then. Give me a minute to catch up here, Devin Tuck. And yeah, let's get this guy on the pod. All right. Who's he with now? What's he for? I just love the image, what he was all about back then. There we go. All right. Those speeches are why we love the beast. I don't know which speech you're talking about, because I'm going to talk in circles and you got to pick out which one applies to you. And if not, people always say, where are the timestamps? Sometimes Mikey does them. Sometimes I got a minute and do them, but it's arduous. I should hire Long Island Luke to do it for me. Right. I'll pay him in coffee in buds. There you go. Sandine back at it. BC, after I summit Everest, will you come on my pod? Yeah, dude. Hell yeah. First of all, do you have a podcast, Sandine, or are you just talking out of your a-hole? All right. What's going on here? And why are you in all caps? All right. All right. There we go. Yeah. If you do it, I'll be there. I'll get you back. Yeah, of course. Maybe I'll have you on this podcast to talk about it. All right. All right. Do people complain? BC, we don't want him. We want you. No, he's part of me. All right. It's like Reggie. You can't be like, I'm here for the BCX, but I'm going to turn it off if Reggie shows up. He's going to come and go as he pleases. By the way, wait, what is this, Sandine? I have Danger Mouse podcast. I produce it. Is this a serious thing? Is this real? All right. Yeah, I'll come on. Danger Mouse and I, we need to bury the hatchet between us, obviously. All right. Dave Sandine is the producer extraordinaire for Just Bleed Radio. I'm new to all this, Sandine. Is this a real fact? Is this a real fact? All right. Thank you. I want to hear more from. What was I going to tell you? Oh, my third cat, the youngest one, Emma, all white, beautiful, amazing. She's the sweetheart. She's the baby of this family. She loves me, but she's very intimidated by me because I'm loud. So there are times that I will be feeding her and I'll, elbow the cupboard or something and make a big noise and she'll just run away and won't come out for a day. She was in this room as I was about to start this podcast and she was going to make her first appearance. I think she was on MK once. I think so, but I would have had to whisper to keep her happy. She's a joy. She's a joy. Not everybody here is a cat guy though. I don't know what's wrong with a lot of you people. All right. Banana Clipper, what do you got for me? All right, we hit that already. Thank you. I will continue to get back on you. Let me unstar that. Thank you. And now we're going to head over to Street 1234. Thank you for serving and helping and loving here. Top 5 female singer-songwriters. Mine in no particular order. Bonnie Raitt, Sheryl Crow, Nora Jones, Carole King, and Christine McVie. All very good choices by you. All very good. And let me say, Luke Thomas, comically, I want to say hilariously, but is it hilarious? Calls me a food racist. You know what I mean? We have fun with it, right? I used to be a women's vocalist racist, if that's a thing. I just, for some reason, it's more in my high school, college, early 20s years, just could not connect with female lead singing rock and roll. I couldn't do it. I remember even Heart, which now is all Heart's badass, right? Barracuda, yeah, right. I mean, Heart's gnarly. I remember thinking, man, this band would be really good if they didn't have chicks out front, right? You know what I mean? Just a loser, just out of my head. I finally came around, you know, I got Carole King's Tapestry, you know, this is years ago, but I started to go, okay, I'm missing out. It's what's oddly funny now is in terms of like new music. I mean, I listen to a lot of new music, but like I'm really into like Julian Baker, Boy Genius, Phoebe Bridgers, like all these, you know, Waxahachie, all these great female lead vocalists. I mean, even Elephant Jim, the weird math rock band that I'm absolutely into, has that too. So I've come around in a big breakthrough without question. So who's my number one female singer songwriter of all time? It's Joni Mitchell. And you have to understand, like I hated Joni Mitchell my whole life without really knowing how good she was, because there was this aura that the way people talked about her catalog, yet the things I had heard, mostly the early folk radio hits that she had, which are amazing, but they're, you know, they're very soft and airy, and you know, I didn't understand the craft or the art behind it, and I'm thinking like she can't be as good as people say. Like, what are they thinking? And then every like rock and roll documentary that you'd see her in, well, she's Joni, which means she just might insult anybody. You know, somebody in one interview, she'd be like, yeah, Bob Dylan was my inspiration and my hero. The next interview, she'd be like, yeah, he was the most unoriginal artist of all time, and I really think I'm better than him in every category. You know, there was a lot of those, and you're just sort of like, man, she's a cigarette smoking a-hole. Yeah, she's also an absolute artist, you know, and I don't need to bore you again of how I fell into her catalog a few years ago, accessing through the portal that is her 1971 classic and the best album in her canon, Blue, which is not just a folk rock record with female vocals. These songs are alive with passion. I like the people you have in your list right there. I've got a couple Christine McVie solo records, and certainly love, you know, what the female vocals bring to the best, most commercially successful Fleetwood Mac albums for sure. But Joni's my number one with a bullet. There was a stretch where I literally thought she was the GOAT. I literally thought she was the best of all time because she's such a great guitar player and does not get the credit. Rolling Stone put her in there as like in like the top 20, and I think that's a joke, but because her guitar playing is so different. It's playing in the weird tunings. It's, you know, whatever. But I mean, God, she's playing dulcimer solo in her early part of her career. I am definitely into, I'm trying to think of others that I just cling to. Oh, yes. Lisa Hannigan, right? We knew her originally from Damien Rice's O, which is came out in around 03 or 04 and is one of the best alternative folk albums ever, right? Just can change your life right now. Yeah, Lisa Hannigan is that record, you know, and obviously when their relationship broke off, an album later, she was out, and I don't think they've ever talked again. And I don't think his career, even though he put out a couple releases after that, you know, it never equaled this. But I followed her solo career aggressively, and I, you know, I'm real into that. So good list right there. Street 1, 2, 3, 4. The ladies can hold it down. Okay. Thank you. And it's weird because like in women's MMA, I've always been day one, like a fan of it and pushing for it. I know you're saying, okay, yeah, because you like strawweights and you're a dirt hole. No, not for that reason. Really not. Okay. Harmon. Yeah. Is that Harmon? Thank you, Harmon. Joan Baez is wonderful. I don't own any of her records, but really into her. You know who might be arguably my favorite female voice of all time is and it's what's crazy is she's on, in an accompanying way, so many other great records in history. But I'm talking about Emmylou Harris. And I, you know, and her solo career has had some really big highs. But the work she did with that voice, with Graham Parsons, was out of this world. With Bob Dylan on the Desire album, out of this world. With that song she did with Ryan Adams, "Oh My Sweet Carolina," out of this world. The song she did with Bright Eyes on the "I'm Wide Awake It's More," this, you know, she becomes this all-star for hire. And, you know, some of her solo records will blow you away. That's a voice that I'm talking about. Okay. There we go. All right. Sandine's like, I pay for things, but also, wrong button. Natalie. Yeah, dude. Oddly enough, my sister was the biggest 10,000 Maniacs and Natalie Merchant. That pocket of music in the 90s was her wheelhouse. And that was her music. But I've come around as an adult to really appreciate the musicianship in, not only Natalie Merchant's voice and her songwriting, but the extended band and underrated. Okay. All the way. And Sarah McLachlan had a run. Okay. If we're going to have an orange Subaru and talk about Lilith Fair, we got to bring her up. Okay. There we go. Thank you. What else you got? Musty Biscuits. BC, I turned 44 this week. Dude, celebrate that ish. That's what I'm talking about. Get on that full Reggie Jackson, right? Any health advice? I've started fiber supplements and melatonin. I'm trying to look into non-invasive prostate exams. Wow, that would be very good so that you didn't have your manhood taken from you by a 75-year-old ex-Marine sergeant that is known in this town as the Butcher, only nobody told me until it was too late. Thank you. By the way, I live texted my best friend Ed during that surgery because he's the best listener I ever met. All right. You didn't need to know that. Any health advice? Yeah. Turn your health around. Everybody's got, hopefully, and I come from a family that's, everybody's extended family's got years of heart disease. And, it's like almost a badge of honor for the males in my family to survive strokes and heart attacks. And I wanted to be the one that broke that chain, and maybe did it speed up because I got the scare of the NAFLD and the black liver. Maybe. Yeah, sure. Certainly. But I think we all get to this point. As we get older, we hit the 40s, it's harder to play hoops and survive. It's harder to go to the gym and survive, where you're like, man, I don't want to feel this crappy anymore. I didn't realize my entire diet is carbs and sugar. I might die soon. Like, I really need to put this together. And I want to, it's just odd that, like, when I was a kid in the early 80s, like, my grandfather at age 45 looked the same as he did at age 70, right? Like, people got old early. And we're lucky to live in an era where we're smarter, despite the food quality or lack of it in the US. I mean, the food will kill you. The food will straight up kill you. But yeah, dude, turn it around. Go for it. I was very lucky to come across MK Donk and a fantastic trainer, Darren Robinson, who kind of changed my life a year ago. And I got on his program and he mentored me and was a great friend and still in my DMs and talked to him. And he changed my life, just giving me the education I needed to figure out how to eat better for somebody who can't cook and is a barbarian who grew up on hot dogs like myself. And I feel in general so much better, even though now I'm I'm not at my peak, but I just change your life. Okay. Be there for your kids. I never stretch. And when I commit to stretching, my life is 5,000 times better. All right. Don't be that old guy who can't bend over and pick up your keys. Get ready to be a grandfather one day and play with your grandkids. All right. You're at 44. Here's the deal. Try to remove sugar. Please try to get rid of it. It's hard. I'm addicted to it. Try to get rid of it the best you can. High protein diet. Put your mental health first. Like, figure out how to be your mental healthiest. It's not easy, but figure out whether that's meds, therapy, diet change, exercise, or hopefully all of the above. Figure it out, because if you don't and you're stubborn and you keep going down that road, it's just going to get worse. And I had years of just eating bad all the time and being depressed all the time and being run down all the time and just not knowing any better, just being an ignorant donk, but save yourself while you got this chance. You'll never be this young again. I got to remind myself of that constantly as I feel old. And I just retired this year from basketball, basically. And I'm like, man, maybe I'm packing it in. No, I'm just going to develop new habits, because the thing is, it's really hard to play basketball on a weekly basis and not limp half the time and not get into fist fights when you're out there. All right, there you go. Hey, this is from She Loves the Gloves. I wanted to do a Usyk Fury 2 preview with UBC, just like we did at 308 with Luke, and then our entire country shut down. I would have said yes, Duty. Big fan of your work. And tough break about what's going on over there. I hope you're safe. Hope everything's good. Thank you. Let's keep it going here. Devin Tuck, back in my life. There you go. Just like the Ariel Helwani show. Have you ever been conflicted covering a fighter? It seems like Luke feels this way with Connor. Yeah, sure. But I mean, I'm not as aggressive in it as Luke or as vocal. I always try to separate the art from the artist. I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I always try, a lot of things, right? Yeah, we're critical at times at certain people, especially repeat offenders. And, it's not like you can sit around and make proper defense for the trouble Gervonta got into. It's like only so long you can go, well, he is from West Baltimore. It's lucky he came out of there. Like at some degree, you got to turn it around. But I've never been one to oh, I don't want to interview that person because of it. But I've also never really had it's not like a fighter took a political stance that was firmly against, me and my people, and I had to be in this awkward spot. I still believe in that moment I would do the job, because at the end of the day, that's what I do. You hire me for the job, I'm going to do the job the best I can. I try not to insert myself in these moments, even though my entertainment style can be very look at how, is there any more self-absorbing than talking for 3 hours straight, answering questions? Come on, you know what I'm saying? But, yeah, there's been a few times, for sure. Adrian Broner was, when he was at his early peak, he's hung up on me, swore me off. It was hard to cover that guy. You get annoyed, you feel like he's a jerk, but these fighters are also humans living out their own life as a famous entertainer and drama in their lives. I try not to judge, and try to understand that we're people here. We're people, flawed people. Different people. Fighters are different people. It's a different way of thinking. It is different. But no, I don't feel conflicted on that Luke level. I try not to hold grudges and go, well, I'm never going to interview that person again because of this or that. I'm a media member. I kind of know my role and my place, right? Yeah. All right, there we go. We need Aaron. Yeah, we do. We do need Braun. I try to always be when somebody I like, oh, great person, one of the greatest. Aaron Bronster is one of the greatest people in the world. I love that guy. So big fan. Yeah, is Mikey here? No, I know Mikey today, but Mikey's lingering. He's around. He's good. We love Mikey. Mikey's the best. I love Mikey. Okay. JS, BC, you ever get excited a fighter got whooped? No. I don't. I try to stop short of that. And I have stopped short of that. I don't celebrate losses because somebody told me off one time or something. No. Do I cheer for certain fighters and say, yeah, you get involved in their story, or you want a great fighter to win a great fight and continue and see how far they can go? Yes, but no, that's not how I'm wired. That's not how I get down. All right. We got great questions coming in. Here's Alan W. I love this guy, right? Great supporter of this here chat and MMA in general, and maybe even life. I don't know. I'm trying to get this guy in an interview. He's very clandestine, Alan W. I asked Luke this question before. Money aside, do you prefer a career in 90s terrestrial radio television or the modern journalism commentary format? It's a good question. It's a very good question. Because I did come up in the in the 90s, started writing for my local newspaper while I was in high school. I came up in the last days of when newspapers were still newspapers. So I, grew up going, doing that, getting the newspaper every day, loving it. My grandfather was the production manager at the Naugatuck News, my hometown paper. Moved his family from Vermont when my dad was a kid to Connecticut looking for a new job, and did that. And my whole family worked there. So the newspaper business to me is very nostalgic and classic and has a royalty to it. But your specific question, would I prefer a career in 90s? Yes, because in the 90s, it meant more, right? Wasn't as many channels, even though there were a lot of channels, cable channels in the 90s compared to the 80s or the 70s. But still, it wasn't to where it's at today. It's weird today. You can be on TV, but there's 5 million TV channels, you know what I mean? And there's a million, it doesn't matter. Going back to a time when being on radio or TV mattered more. You're living out your dream and playing it in thinner air. It meant more. The stakes were higher. Yeah, I would have loved that. I would have loved to have been in sports radio in the 90s, after WFAN, what they did in the 80s and started that boom and really pushed it. It would have been fantastic. I'm getting very nostalgic, which happens at this age, right? To very nostalgic to the times of when you grew up. I'm always going to be 90s nostalgic from the pop culture side of it and the, entertainment side of it. But I'm getting really nostalgic on late 70s, the time I was born, the film noir era there. And really just, the fact that I'm the last generation and people our age, there's a lot of old donks like me in this chat, who like straight up seriously lived a full life, even up to adulthood, before the Matrix started, before cell phones, smartphones, and the takeover of the internet of our lives put us to where we are now, where it's really just like the movie The Matrix that, you know, we just plug in and turn off. I mean, you know, it's like if I was left alone and no one in my family actually tried to be with me, I would be sitting in this chair playing Fortnite and listening to records every 24 hours a day, right? Just entering my own version of The Matrix to get out of my own head and put the world away. I have nostalgia for what it was like before everyone knew where you were and could track you down and had that app that my wife has that knows where we all are at all times. And like, you know, yeah, I do have that nostalgia for what life used to be. Does that nostalgia play into, you know, thinking about work here? Well, yeah, to some degree. I miss the simpler times. That's the first sign that you're getting old. But it's not like I'm against where we're at now. I mean, I'm thriving in it. It's funny because when I started off in newspapers and I was looked at rightfully as someone who had some talent, but did I have the work ethic? No. Was I PC? No. Was I rough around the edges? Yes. Was I not reliable to a large degree? Was I largely an underachiever, even in my, you know, early roles writing and for newspapers? Yes, it was a rough time in my life. But I remember thinking back then, man, like I'm a decent writer. This is probably my career line. I'm looking ahead. I'm like, I'm probably going to end up being like all these other older, grizzled and gruff newspaper editors who work nights for 30 years in a row and cheer against all their local teams and just want everyone to leave them alone. I was headed toward that. But I remember thinking back then, man, it would be so much better if there was some kind of format where I could be me. That's the whole like fortune inside your head thing. The whole like, I know there's some gold in here. I just don't know how to get it out. I don't know how to turn that into a career or a passion or a life. I remember thinking literally like right before that stuff broke out, where the idea of podcasts or the idea of, you know, being on camera easier. Back then, like, when I was started at ESPN, you could only be on camera if you had a camera crew with you. It wasn't, you know, it was like I was around this journey of evolution right with you, where suddenly we have easy webcams or we've got phones that have better quality cameras than any you can have. So I do think that I am in the right era for my skill set, my personality, without question, and I'm taking full advantage of it. It's a dream come true. There are many times when I pitch myself and I'm like, oh my God, like I literally am getting paid to do what I would be doing in a circle of people anyway. I would be at my job around the water cooler trying to fire you up about the fights. I would be, you know, sitting with my friends in a basement doing the same thing. So in that regard, Alan, okay, I'm where I'm supposed to be. But am I always nostalgically looking back and wanting to put myself back in those simpler times? Yes. Maybe that's a natural thing in everyone, but yes. All right. I'm just talking in frickin' circles right now. I guess that's what we signed up for. Thank you to everybody for continually pumping in these questions. Let's continue to break through these. And this is Saul coming back, right? He's in the truck in Louisville. I spent $3 on that Dr. Pepper jerky, obviously. See, I knew Saul was I knew he was a real one. I knew it. I knew it at the end of the day. You know, he took that thing downtown. All right. That's what I'm saying, Saul. That's what you got to. When I bought that McDonald's hot dog, I had to go the distance with it. You have to. That was the grossest thing I've ever eaten. Okay. Yes. What do you got, AW? What do you got here? Thank you, as always, Alan. I mean, seriously, what are you doing? Who am I, right? BC comes off like a Jack Johnson type of guy, singer, surfer. I got respect for Jack Johnson. I do. Yeah. My wife plays Jack Johnson all the damn time in the kitchen, all the time. I loved the first album, and I purchased a couple others on CD. I wouldn't call myself a lifer. I wouldn't say the music is, you know, insane, but it's mood music. And it's good stuff. Good call, Alan. You know, I'm an old white dad. What do you want from me? All right. That's what we got here. Bunch of bangers. All right. The people are what I'm talking about, you know? Yeah. I mean, maybe, you know, okay. Thank you. I get, because we're one and the same. What does Fancy got to say? I took down a jerky that gave the D yesterday. Worth it. I never know what you're setting me up for. Is this what it sounds like? What it says? Sometimes I feel like I'm pulling comments out of people's conversations. Maybe people are having better conversations on this chat with each other than with me. It's very possible. It's very possible, right? We're building a community of like-minded people here. Okay. I don't know if that's good or bad. No, it's open to everybody. You don't have to be an absolute dirt hole. I just happen to play one on TV. Thank you. All right. Jason C, shout out to Waxahachie. Dude, I'm late. I'm late getting into Waxahachie. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. I forgot the lady who's the lead singer, but oh my God, that new album from them, Tiger Blood, is absolutely awesome. And the song, the main song that they did with MJ Lenderman, then spun off to me getting his most recent new album and absolutely adoring it the same. Thank you. Yes, we need to spread great music to each other and love and cheer. Spread them cheeks if you can. Okay, that was, yeah, just you wonder, right? Alan W. Luke thank you, Alan. Luke surprisingly knows a lot about porn stars for a person who holds himself as an academic. He's kind of a perv. I mean, I didn't say that, Alan. You did, all right, but yeah, he is kind of a perv. Yeah, I mean, part of that is his shtick. He knows it makes me uncomfortable to bring that up, but it's funny. It is funny. Yeah, Luke is obviously a walking contrast, but we love him. We cheer for Luke. We protect Luke. I mean, except for when he drives me crazy and the show almost falls apart. That's, it's happened a few times. I'm sure I've driven him crazy just the same. It's not easy to keep up a partnership with two aggressive, like-minded, but different, ambitious people, but we make it work. We do. This MK train keeps rolling. But yeah, for Luke to rip on everything else, but then listen to Cannibal Corpse, yeah, it's a constant contradiction, but aren't we all, right? Aren't we all? Thank you, L-Dub. Thank you. But yes, I get the reputation for being the more ridiculous of the two, when in reality, that guy's way more ridiculous than me in real life, like way more. He's just better at holding it together at times in front of a microphone, All right. And I wonder too, because my superpower in life is I'm an overthinker, and it's, a superpower, and it's also the ball and chain around my ankle that, constantly puts me into high anxiety or whatever. But I always wonder, I'm like, did I come out and overly buffoon myself on the launch of this show because I felt like it was the best way for the show to be more entertaining, or because I felt like maybe that would endear me to the MMA audience that had never accepted me? I don't know, in hindsight, maybe that was a time in my life I was just extra ridiculous, but we change, we grow, we evolve. There you go. Great questions today, people, by the way. Okay. Great questions. MMA sedan. Well, great. What a car you're driving right there. You're doing some car jitsu in that. Thank you for your Canadian loonies. Art or artist being said, what's your top Benoit match? What was that main? Remember Chris Benoit? Was it WrestleMania 20 that he walked off as champion in the final match, and it was a damn great match? Yeah, it was a triple threat match. Obviously Benoit is the ultimate love the art, hate the artist type of guy in that regard. Yeah, but the worst part, it is weird and it sucks, understandable, but it is weird, then it sucks when something like this happens and then someone just gets erased from history. It's like they're toxic, we don't want anything to do with them. OJ Simpson, whatever. But damn, do I love watching old OJ highlights from his peak, and damn, was Benoit just the gnarliest, most technical. I mean, the fact that the biggest detriment, I think, was that he was such a Dynamite Kid fan, so he had no regard for his body. And I mean, who uses a flying headbutt off the top rope as their main move? I mean, it's wild. I know he also had the crossface, and then he had that move where he makes his family disappear. And it's not even a funny joke, so I'm really bad that it's really bad that I said that. If it wasn't for BC, I would have left the show a long time. Are you talking about MK? Well, thank you. I appreciate that, but you're also talking bad about my co-host. But I have always understood that this is what it is. The polarizing dynamic between us, at least comically or analysis wise, is the fuel for the show. And inevitably, like Mike and the Mad Dog, which I grew up on, as did a lot of people, you ended up, I hated Mike. You know what I mean? I was a Mad Dog guy because I hated Mike. He was a know-it-all and a Yankees fan, a Giants fan, and all that. But then you kind of develop over time and you realize, well, first of all, Mike's better, but it only worked because, it's like Simon and Garfunkel. I mean, I love Paul Simon's solo career. I've really been getting into it on vinyl. The guy's a freaking genius, and you wouldn't know it if you only thought of him in a pop craft sense. But there is something different about the Simon and Garfunkel stuff. There's a reason why it sold more than his solo career. There's a reason why that will always be the high point for him, because it was the right partnership at the right time and the right thing. So, but the whole point is, you may come hopefully you came for LT and stay for BC, but you may only like one of us. And that's sort of the point in it, right? I'm going to pull out all the things on camera that Luke hates about himself that the audience rips on him, and then he's going to accuse me of siding with the audience. That's the show. That's the damn show right there. Okay. Sandine says BC is the Fonz and Luke is Ralph Malf. Yeah. Wow, there's an old school reference right there. Here we go. Alan W, where are you at right here? I watched the whole BKFC card with the main card minute. Yeah, dude, Luke Nocita gets after these live streams. I got a lot of respect for that guy's work ethic. As a longtime boxing fan, I kind of love it. It could be a perfect community sport to get drunk to. Agree with you on that. They won't make megastars, but it could be a big brand. By the way, they are in Connecticut this weekend at the Mohegan Sun. And coming off the success of last weekend, it would have been interesting to go. Brendan Ward, former Bellator guy from New London, Connecticut, wild backstory, obviously big power. He's going to be making his BKFC debut. They actually, BKFC reached out to me, wanted me to go. I probably would have went, but you know, I got to climb that mountain on Saturday in Vegas. All right. I agree with you, Alan. It's coming around, and it's like, it's not really about the actual product as much as it is the effort, commitment, hustle, and passion shown in presenting that product. Same way UFC was on the climb, and the climb lasted a long time. And that was the old Dana that we loved, because we were on the journey with Dana, cheering him along on the climb. We wanted the sport to be cheered for and accepted on the mainstream, you know, like all this stuff. BKFC's in that spot right now where we're starting to wake up and go, I kind of want them to succeed, because they're unabashedly who they are, and they're going after it. They're getting after it. It's interesting. Simon or Simone, possibly, maybe Simon 98. Thank you for sliding in right here. Hey, BC, regarding the conversation about greatest Irish fighters, yeah, that I ducked out of on. By the way, I ducked out of that because I was brain logged trying to get Stevie Collins' name. Also, we forgot about Katie Taylor. So there you go with that one. Regarding the conversation about greatest Irish fighters on MK, how about longtime super middleweight champion Steve Collins? Yes, an absolute legend, an absolute classic, a tough guy, a real guy. Would have loved to have seen him fight Roy Jones. It was interesting. I referenced, I think last week, that I had watched, it's old now, but you can watch it on YouTube, that roundtable sit down they did in Britain with Johnny Nelson hosting and all the great super middleweights. And what it turned into at that time was Stevie Collins, who was in his late 40s, trying to pull Roy Jones into the fight that was supposed to happen back then and never did. That would have been great. But Stevie Collins he's got a backbone, man. That's the thing. Irish fighters, they bring that honesty at the end of the day. You know, in boxing, I love John Duddy. I love John Duddy, right? I love Andy Lee. There's that honesty. There's that passion. There's that hardworking vibe. Yeah, Stevie Collins, a real one, a legend, indeed. Thank you. Also, Lazy Bed, are you calling all 11 fights? How's the prep going? No, I believe, as of now that I know, I will not be on the pre-show, but I will be calling the 4 main pay-per-view fights on Saturday. PBC on Prime pay-per-view. Mauro Ranallo, Ebner Morris, myself, Jordan Plant on the ringside reporting, and then I believe I'm also handling the post-fight interviews on those fights. So not the whole card, not the 11. I don't even think I'm on that in-between card either, which is fine. Yeah, I don't know where that went. All right. Sorry, I'm just losing control of my life. Losing my mind, losing my... Did I really just... No. All right. Thank you, Lazy Bed, for the support. All right. Alan, what do you got? I also wonder if BKFC can reach an economic point to draw real prime athletes. I'm pretty sure 90% of the fighters were pulled from. So you make an interesting point. BKFC is like 10% old UFC names and 90% like people that had 2 pro fights, and they also work at a gas station in West Virginia and look like they do. But man, those guys are tough and gnarly, and they're willing to go out in a blaze of glory. I do wonder also, not just if we go, like, I wonder if there's going to be more Mike Perrys. Now, I know Mike Perry had to kind of bottom out in UFC to open this door, but he finds that, like Jeremy Stevens is finding now at an older age, that this might be the perfect forum for specifically what he brings to the table. I wonder if we're going to see more of that, meaning will we end up seeing a boxer or a UFC fighter who has a certain level of success, but hits a certain point in their late 20s as a free agent or something, or 30, and they go, you know what, I'm going to go over there now because the money's great. I'm not afraid of this setting, the rule set, and let's just get after it. I also wonder, to answer your question, whether we will see the same of the other fighters that fill out the undercard. Will we see more people not raise up at 18 and go, I'm going to be a BKFC fighter, I'm going to train to become that? I don't think anyone actually does that, right? I just wonder how long it's going to take before the sport becomes a little bit more boring. Like I said, where people start to like try to actually gain an edge and figure out the real strategy of doing this. Obviously they're using strategy, right? But there's still an element of just raw fight, who's tougher. We'll see where the sport can go. It can go worse places, it can go better places, but it's about the spectacle in terms of bringing in the casuals, because then that brings in the money. And I think it's going to be fun to see what type of big main event matchups they continue to pull, finding the right fighters, especially if some of these GFL eligible guys are allowed to come over. It is interesting. One more from LNW. Always thanks for the support. Angle and Benoit matches, no question. Yeah, Angle and that group that were there at the same time, that involved Angle, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit. Shout out to Dean Malenko, by the way. But like that, those matches against one another during that stretch, Jericho and that too. Like, oh god, classics. And you knew it was going to be a classic. You knew it was always the artistry of what they cared about. Incredible. I hope I was able to get to all those paid ones, by the way. Appreciate all you guys. I may have deleted one by accident before I read it, but thank you. Let's do a little bit more here. Let's do it. The best base for bare knuckle boxing, Perfect Speller says, is Walmart. Up to this point, I would agree with you on that. You know what I mean? I may throw in like a what's that freight store? I'm going with there. Maybe a bass fit. What's up with these bass things that have like a aquarium in there? I'm going with that. All right, thank you. I'm doing second rate Seinfeld. What is it? Dave Sandine, I love Luke Thomas, but I don't agree with lots that he says. Yeah, he's articulate though. He's well thought out. He's a passionate man. He's a smart man. But yeah, I don't agree with a lot of that either. But I do respect and appreciate somebody who puts in the time to form an opinion and cares about it like Luke does. Damn right. Okay. Well, a lot of Luke Thomas questions here or comments here. All right. From Chilla is working with Moro as wild and fun as it would seem. So I'm really excited about this. So I actually have worked with Moro on a couple of broadcasts, meaning I was the sideline reporter on like 4 Showtime championship broadcasts, including the Benavidez Andrade pay-per-view, where Moro was the play-by-play. I have been on that Diaz Masvidal fan meal card. Moro was play-by-play. I was sideline reporter. But we've never, outside of, here's where I got to give Moro credit. He actually, I didn't know this until years later, but when I first started at Showtime getting a cup of coffee in 2018, like being added to weigh-in streams or press conference streams, as one of the talking heads talent, it was actually Moro that went to bat for me in a meeting to give me a try. So I got to work with him in that sense. One of my favorite gigs I ever did was Fury Wilder 1 Fight Week, December of 18, that was on Showtime. And I did the weigh-in panel outdoors outside of the Staples Center with Paulie Malignaggi and Moro. So I've gotten to work with that, but never got to call a fight with him. And, I'm a big Moro fan. I love him even more as a person. Respect for his story, bipolar rock and roller documentary, so many great things there. I don't know what it's going to be like to work with him, but I've been wanting to forever, meaning literally sitting next to him trading on air, right? Like it's going to be really fun. Him, myself, Abner, it's going to be really fun. So it is as wild and fun as it would seem. And you got to be quick on your toes. You know what I mean? Moro brings it. He's got that quick recall. It's like we've talked about it with each other. There's some similarities in some ways between us with our sense of humor, pulling song lyrics, all that type of stuff. So I want to see what type of magic we can make here. I really do. Yeah, the bipolar rock and roller, the Moro doc was wild. I remember just being the best. I will say this: if you haven't asked me, but if you were like, BC, what's the best? What do you think is the best thing you've ever written? I've written for ESPN.com, CBS Sports, bunch of newspapers. I might mention the 5,000 word column I wrote about bipolar rock and roll in 2018 when I followed Moro around for a day in New York. We went from interview to interview, and I remember everyone had the same comment that I talked to. I interviewed Steven Espinoza, Brian Daly, all the executives behind the scenes on it. And every single person was like, when we got the raw footage, when we were getting updates of what this doc would be, they were like, they actually sat Morrow down and was like, are you sure you want to show this to the world? Like, it's so raw. And he was like, yeah, that's why I want to show it. I want to show what this does, you know, and what this disease does, and what when we don't take mental health seriously, what it can do. And I'm so glad he did. I'll never forget being at the premiere in New York City, which had a ton of celebrities and ex-athletes and people just dripping tears at the end of it and standing up and applauding. I'm very happy that Morrow put that out into the world. And there we go. It was wild. I've watched that a few times going back on that. All right. Where can we read that? I think if you just search Brian Campbell, CBS Sports, Mauro Ranallo on Google, it'll probably bring up that CBS Sports feature. I remember it led the front page of CBS Sports for like a whole day. It was one of the most proud things I've ever written, because I really had a lot of passion. And at that time I was going, you know, that film, I've told you this before, but that film kind of sparked me like waking up and going like, okay, I'm off. I'm not where I should be. I got to take this more seriously. What happened? It was a hard stretch that summer, but you know, I started to get in line and figure my mental health out. And I feel like the greatest byproduct of that, aside from being able to be the husband and father that my family deserves, rather than, you know, being a little off kilter, was it calmed me down enough occupationally to stop being my worst critic ever and allow the real me to come out on microphone. And it's been the greatest thing that's ever happened to me since. And I always say, from that moment in the summer of 2018, when I turned 40, the phone started ringing for on-camera work, and it hasn't stopped since. And yeah, it's been a little slow last year, but it hasn't stopped since. And I really credit that sort of epiphany that I went through that process with Morrow. So thank you very much. There we go. Alan, thank you as always. How did you get hooked up with these PBC gigs? So I would say it was, you know, certainly when in 2018, when I said Morrow went to bat with me, I got a chance. I think the first thing I did for Showtime ever was the first press conference on the aircraft carrier for Wilder Fury 1 when in New York City. It was a wild time. It was me, Morrow, and Steve Farhood. I just think through doing well on those, it just led to more opportunities, and it was a perfect time. I left, or didn't leave, but during that time I got a gig in 2020, 2021 that it was called Ring City, USA. A lot of people remember it aired on NBC Sports for a year. I think that performance ultimately got me more gigs at Showtime, because it was right after that series folded that I got the call to be on Showbox, and then started filling in on Showtime Championship. So I think that was a big push up for me. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention 2019. So 2019, PBC signed with Fox on a 2-year deal. And if you remember the first year of that, 2019, PBC spent a lot of money on shoulder content. And I was able to become the host of PBC Face to Face, which was that, you know, debate show between the two fighters ahead of an upcoming fight, which is maybe still one of the most fun projects I've ever been a part of. I had an unbelievable producer in Yaron Descalo, and he had a vision for it. And it was just so much fun to do. I also was contributing to the PBC Countdown show that they had as a talking head during that time. So I think that certainly continued me on, you know, Al Heyman or PBC's radar. And then through my relationship with Showtime, it escalated, and, you know, it's fun to still be kind of linked with PBC. I got a chance to do that non-pay-per-view show, the Tim Tszyu Bakram Murtazalia fight last October in Orlando. And, you know, little did I know that may have, you know, helped open up this opportunity. So we'll see what happens. Nothing in life is guaranteed, but one guarantee you'll get on Saturdays, I'm going to absolutely bring it LNW. Okay. I'm going to go. That's, you know, I did come to terms with that in the last few years of my career when certain opportunities opened up. The idea that even if I'm showing you too much of me, at least you know what you're getting. Meaning, I remember I had a Showbox tryout. It was at the end of 21. It was in Las Vegas. Showtime's solid, man. They flew me to the Boots Ennis was fighting Delorme, and in the main event, Jamal James lost his secondary welterweight title to Rajav Butayev. I remember that card because Showtime, to try me out for Showbox, flew me to that fight, flew in Barry Tompkins and Raul Marquez, and we did a second broadcast, meaning the Showtime real TV team was next to us at the table. They were calling the fight. We did an entire second broadcast that nobody saw. And I remember in that moment thinking like, okay, this is my chance, right? And I brought it. I probably talked over people. I remember between fights one time, Barry was like kind of being like, dude, this is what you don't do this, don't do this anymore. You know what I mean? I remember thinking at the time, like, I might ruffle feathers a little here, but I'm going to absolutely bring it and show what I can do. And then I sort of filled into my role after that and found my right cadence and all that. But, I really feel like when you get the call, you got to be mentally ready, but when you get the call, you got to swing big. All right. Sometimes you only get one chance. All right, bring it. The Dino Don show. BC, what's your Nightmare Blunt Rotation MMA edition? Maybe everybody that showed up at the inauguration day in that photo. Remember that was like, Sean Strickland would be in my Nightmare Blunt Rotation. Nita Drama. I don't know. I'm having fun with you. Yeah, it would be. There's a few out there that I'm sure I just wouldn't mesh with, but whatever. Alan W, dude, thank you. You don't need to do this for me. Thank you. By the way, congrats on calling the Benavides Morel card. It feels like Trinidad versus Oscar big. I'm so proud. Like watching an idiot blossom into a usually you're using words I don't understand, but thank you very much. Kidding much. Alan, thank you. I mean, this fight isn't as big as Trinidad Oscar. I love that this fight is big though, and I love to get this opportunity. Yeah, it's been wild for me watching this journey and the blossoming that I've been able to do. I mean, thanks God. You got to be right place, right time with the right relationships and the right work ethic and all that stuff. But like even then, it sometimes doesn't work or doesn't happen, or you got to climb more hills. You know how many times I felt like I was there? And then you got to climb more hills and more hills. And it's kind of like, you feel like the big man on campus in 5th grade and you're a badass. And then in 6th grade, you're getting bullied and the book's knocked out of your hands your first year of middle school. You know what I mean? I got to climb another mountain. Yeah, it's constant. But in your own line of work, in your own field, anything's possible. But usually the person that needs to be taught that first is you, right? Is ultimately you, because we've listened too long to people that tried to put boxes and limitations around us, and we became content with what they're saying. Yeah, they're probably right. It's probably not rational to think me, right? It's probably not practical to think that I could do that. I mean, what's practical? We hate the practical in life. All we do is celebrate the impractical and the supernatural and the amazing. We're brought to tears when somebody, perseveres and scores a big victory, and in a fight and does the impossible and the supernatural. Yet when it's about our own lives, we want to be like, yeah, it's probably not going to happen. It's too much time and money. That's not me. I don't have it. Well, I think you'd be surprised. Really. I think you'd be surprised at how much you're actually capable of. And I only say that so cockily, so confidently, in fact, because, the same thing happened to me. I was just sort of like, okay, I'm complicit in my own downfall. I can't get out of my own way. Maybe I'll work in a factory the rest of my life or become a gym teacher or something. No disrespect to gym teachers, by the way. That was my first major in college. But, hey, get out of your own way and maybe you can figure out what's possible in your life. All right. You got to believe, though. You got to serve somebody. You got to believe. All right. Yeah. All right. Anybody else got anything else to say? Or are we going to wrap this up? What a time. What a time to be alive, to have your own chat. I mean, I open up the doors. You guys show up. Thank you. You don't need to do this. Okay. You don't need to do that. Thank you. We are live. Just hit me. Oh, no. Oh, sorry, Alan. We know you're going to blow your wad after the call this week. What trash panda cuisine are we having? Yeah, the idea that you have to understand, it is I used to do that in the beginning, by the way. As soon as let me get the grossest food I could possibly get. Let me just, because, you know, all the anxiety, because you're releasing so much anxiety. I'm really working this week on not allowing myself to go through the hell that I typically put myself into the last 3 days before I call a fight, you know, of the fear, the doubt, did I not study enough? Did I study too much? All that BS. All these years into it, I'm still trying to figure out that balance of like, oh yeah, I could just be chill, calm, and happy and then go in there and deliver. I don't need to kill myself in that regard. But I've been trying to not gorge and have that gross meal, and just I always have my oats and shake mix ready to go back in the hotel room. You know, everyone's like, let's go out for a beer. Let's go out. Go. No, you know what the best time ever is? When you know you nailed that show, when the show's over and you can go back up into your room alone and just exhale, just exhale. You did it. You landed the plane, you know, Sully Sullenberg style. Okay, we landed the plane. Thank you. Lazy Bed, Just Bleed Radio, y'all tune in. Why? To see Sandine? Are you on that too, Lazy Bed? Danger Mouse? I mean, you guys are moonlighting on the side. You guys got your own main card minute. You didn't even tell me. All right. Or is that what you're saying right here? BK, you'll do great. BC, your commentary is all. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. All right. Yeah, Lazy Bed is on fire. That's it. And Alan's coming back with some bullshit. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. You're right, Alan. Maybe it is bullshit. Maybe I'll crush you know, when I do crush on the road, when I do get messy, when I do get gross, is obviously fantastic Mexican takeout, you know, especially when I'm in California. But if this is Las Vegas, so I'm probably more apt to just absolutely crush some slices afterwards and a true victory lap of we did it. We did that thing. Because I'm going to do it. I'm going to absolutely do it. All right. Yeah, this is the end of the chat. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Oh, Lazy Bed, one more. Yes, check it. Okay. Oh, I'll check it out. Just Bleed Radios featuring Lazy Bed, Sandine, and Danger Mouse. Are you certain about this? Are you certain about? Hey, Dino Don, no Jermaine. We're not doing the crazy eyes anymore. Okay. We're not doing BKFC for that guy. Please. All right. All right. That's it. We're gonna wrap it up because I could be here all day and I got stuff to do. All right. Thank you. Take care of yourself first and foremost. All right. Put yourself first. It seems selfish. Oh, I'm a wife. I'm a father. Wife, as if there's women watching this. Shout out to Duty though. Put yourself first, because if you ain't right, everything else is going to be wrong that you touch. Okay. Get right. Get right with your liver, with your black liver, with your dark mind. Put a little love in your heart. You got it. All right. Be epic. Be epic. That's what I always tell my kids. Be epic. All right. Go out there. Be epic. F around and find out how great you are. All right. What are you afraid of? Failure? Who cares? Who cares? You know, that's why I always said, and I get why Luke didn't want to do it, but I also said, you know, hey, let me put this chat head to head with Luke and we'll just have fun with it. And we'll talk bad about each other in the chats. He didn't want to do that, but I was willing to do it. And he's like, you get crushed. Would I? Yeah, probably. But you know, the thing is, I'm going to go out swinging. All right. One day after another, put another foot in front of it. Keep going. You can do this. Check it out Saturday night, PBC on Prime Video pay-per-view, 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being you. Thank you for supporting this here chat. Thank you for supporting this here cat, Reggie Jackson, too. He gives you one love. Okay. We got to get some breathing treatments out for that dude. Don't be good, as Alan W would say. Go be great. What a way to end it. Alan W just chef's kissed it. That guy's great. I mean, Alan W might have unspeakably bad internet search history for all we know, but for right now, I love this man. I really do. Thank you very much. We are out of here when I can figure it out. Yeah, there we go.